Chapter 101. The afternoon passed by in a hurry. Little Linger, Mashiro, and Nangong Ro were all busy in the kitchen, and Nangongja was kicked out of the kitchen early. The three girls claimed that, the kitchen is a woman's battlefield, how can a boy step in? Then they pushed Nangongja out of the kitchen. Nangongja had no choice but to clean up the living room. He was preparing to entertain the guests, although some of his old friends were invited to come over for dinner. But Nangongja still didn't know exactly how many people his sister invited, so he could only prepare as many things as possible. There were too many people coming, and it was too late to prepare. Coincidentally, Nangongja had just finished cleaning up the living room when his doorbell rang. Left with no choice, Nangongja walked to the door and opened it. He wanted to see who had arrived so early. Nangong Jun, a slightly short figure, stood in front of Nangongja's door. The silver-gray hair made Nangongja recognize him instantly. Ah. So Ruru also invited you? I was still wondering who was the first one to come here. Nangongja scratched his head and let Kakashi enter the house first. Sorry to bother you. Kakashi entered the room and saw the three girls busy in the kitchen. He greeted them by the way. What? It turned out to be you, little pervert. Little Linger looked back at the person who came in and found that it was Kakashi. His expression became a little impatient, and he even started to curse. Pervert? Nangongja looked at the two of them with some doubts. Although Nangongja knew that Jiraiya had given some of his indescribable novels to Kakashi, he didn't know what the specific situation was. After all, in Nangongja's impression, Kakashi was generally a very cold person. He really couldn't relate to the word pervert. Oni-san, you don't know, this guy once slept in a tree near our house. Then, because he made a strange sound when he slept, Little Linger went to see what happened. She found that his saliva was dripping to the ground. There was also a book called Heaven on the ground. I knew it wasn't a good thing just by looking at the cover. How can a person who reads this kind of book be a good guy? Little Linger seemed to think that Nangongja didn't know about these things, so she ran to the front and hugged Nangongja's arm. By the way, she looked at Kakashi, who was standing in front of her, with a look of contempt. And Kakashi was probably still young, and that kind of thick-skinned face hasn't been fully developed yet. For a moment, he was stared at by Little Linger and Nangongja, and his face turned red, and he became shy. Okay, Little Linger, can't you see that Kakashi Oni-san is shy? A good child can't always hold on to other people's bad points and tell others as a joke. Although Nangongja also felt that Kakashi was so young, and it was a bit inappropriate for him to read that kind of indescribable book, but after all, Kakashi still had his master, advisor, and even ancestor. It wasn't his turn to educate the people of the Hokage clan. He touched Little Linger's head. He stopped Little Linger from continuing. Well, Little Linger will listen to Oni-san. Since Oni-san doesn't want Little Linger to say anything, Little Linger will go to the kitchen to help Oni-san. Little Linger also knew that what she said was a bit too much, so she pouted and ran to the kitchen. Seeing that Little Linger has gone to the kitchen, Nangongja also sat together with Kakashi in the living room. Casually, he poured a cup of tea for Kakashi. Wisps of smoke floated from the tea, and the fragrance of the tea spread in the living room. Try it, this is the tea I brought back from the land of hot water. I heard that it is very famous in the ninja world. After drinking it for so long, there is not much left. Nangongja pushed the teacup and put it in front of Kakashi. Out of politeness, Kakashi wanted to take the teacup with both hands. But he suddenly found that the teacup connected to Nangongja's hand was very hot at the moment. It was as if he put his hand into the fire. Kakashi already understood that Nangongja wanted to deliberately test him, so he mobilized chakra. It was used to resist the internal force that Nangongja integrated into the teacup. However, after a strand of chakra was injected, it was like a mud dragon entering the sea, disappearing without a trace in an instant, without any effect at all. Kakashi also didn't believe it, and poured more and more chakra into the cup. The amount of chakra was mobilized, and even the slightly dissipated chakra formed a thin layer of blue mist that shrouded Kakashi's body. As more and more chakra was injected, the hot tea in the cup began to boil again. Slowly, Kakashi seemed to feel that he couldn't do it. He withdrew his chakra, lowered his head, and looked at Nangongja, who was sitting opposite him with a depressed mood. When you first entered the village, you and I were evenly matched. But I didn't expect that in just a few years, you have left me so far behind. Let's say I lost. Looking at Kakashi, who bowed his head and admitted defeat, Nangongja's face didn't have the slightest trace of joy. Instead, there was a kind of heavy feeling. I heard that you gave up kenjutsu and went to practice ninjutsu instead. Nangongja didn't discuss the contest with Kakashi. Instead, he talked to Kakashi about some rumors in Woodleaf. Yes. I have a reason to specialize in ninjutsu. Kakashi stretched out his hand and touched his forehead-covered eye. The other eye was filled with sadness. Naive. Nangongja listened to Kakashi's words, and in an instant, the anger in his heart was aroused. I know how good your relationship with Obito was, and I also know how Obito felt when he gave his eye to you. I thought that after such a long time, you should have thought it through. But the result? You are still sinking deeper and deeper. Indeed, the Sharingan has many, many conveniences. But is the kenjutsu passed down by White Fang not powerful? You miss the friend who died in front of you, then. What about White Fang-san? Nangongja said louder and louder, and in the end, he even stood up. His voice even alarmed the three girls who were cooking in the kitchen, but the three girls just hid behind the kitchen door and quietly looked at Nangongja, who was scolding Kakashi. Such an angry and emotional Nangongja. They haven't seen Nangongja for a long time. Even little Linger's body trembled a little when she looked at him. Chapter 102. Kakashi looked at Nangongja, who was standing in front of him, who seemed to be really angry. For a while, he began to have some inexplicable emotions in his heart. So what? What qualifications do you have to judge my choice? Often quarrels are like this. When one person loses control of his emotions, it will lead to the other person's emotional explosion. After the two people finished their fierce words, they looked at each other. In silence, Nangongja finally opened his mouth to stop the two people from looking at each other. No matter what, you have to remember. You don't only represent yourself, but also the entire Hatake family, and your father's glory. You can give up swordsmanship, you can also give up a lot of things. However, you must remember that whatever you do, you must not let Senior White Fang's spirit in heaven feel ashamed. Nangongja looked at Kakashi's eyes, and said very solemnly. Kakashi seemed to have calmed down a little at this moment, and sat in his original position. Obito, he, is dead. Rin, is also dead. Father, is also dead. I don't even know where my master is now. Kakashi looked up at Nangongja, who was standing in front of him. His eyes were full of sadness. Nangongjun, I am not as strong as you think. Sad news came one after another, bombarding my spirit. Every one of them. Every single one of my mental pillars collapsed just like that. What can I do to make myself better? Whether it was Obito or Rin, for Kakashi, it was self-evident that they were precious. And Watergate, after White Fang's death, for Kakashi, he was like a teacher and a father. Kakashi was a little smaller than Nangongja. Although he had undergone a lot of harsh ninja training since he was a child, Kakashi was still a little younger than Nangongja. But his will was not as strong as many people thought. In Nangongja's view, Kakashi was now overly addicted to pain. If this continued, even if he didn't become a cripple, he would also do a lot of things that would make people close to him sad. Nangongja didn't suddenly stand up and talk to Kakashi on a whim, but he really understood. Kakashi at this moment needed someone to help him vent these negative emotions, so Nangongja decided to stand up and help Kakashi vent his emotions. Nangongja walked to Kakashi's side, and put his hand on Kakashi's shoulder. Under Nangongja's control, a wisp of natural energy slowly flowed into Kakashi's body. After Nangongja's body, natural energy became very gentle at this moment. After entering Kakashi's body, it began to play its role. It detected all kinds of hidden injuries in Kakashi's body, and it slowly healed. During this time, you must have pushed yourself a lot. After all, you mainly used Kenjutsu and Taijutsu to fight, and from a Taijutsu ninja to a ninjutsu ninja, you must go through a series of training. In order to complete the transformation faster, you have also undergone a lot of harsh training. Nangongja stretched out his other hand and turned Kakashi's head slightly, so that he could look directly at his eyes. Haste makes waste. When one day you really understand these things, but you find that your body has been tortured to the point that it can't bear the burden, will you regret it? In the future, when the cloning ninja Kakashi fought with people, he often used a few ninjutsu, and his whole body would be exhausted. He couldn't fight anymore, although this was not in line with the Sharingan and Hatake family's physique. But there is also a great possibility that it was because Kakashi was too hasty when he completed the ninjutsu transformation, damaging the foundation of his body, causing both his physical fitness and chakra to deteriorate. Nangongja naturally didn't know what would happen in the future, but this kind of thing that destroyed his foundation on the surface. Nangongja could still see that Yondaime and Jiraiya were not here now. The three generations were busy with various trivial things like cleaning up the wood leaf, and these things could only be handled by Nangongja. Kakashi listened to Nangongja's words and didn't know what to say. He just lowered his head and looked at the floor with a pair of dead fish eyes. Whenever you need help, I'll help you. Come to me. Nangongja patted Kakashi's shoulder and walked away. He wanted to give Kakashi some space so that he could think clearly. He walked to the aisle between the door and the house, and a slight evening breeze was blowing. It also made Nangongja's mind a little bit sober. Just when Nangongja's mind was still a little empty, Nangongja heard Yabuki's voice. Yabuki? When did you come? Sorry, I didn't notice. Just now, something was bothering me. At this moment, Yabuki was holding a pink-haired child in her arms, but her eyes kept looking at Kakashi, who was sitting in the living room in a daze. This child is, Nangongja nodded. Yes, this child is White Fang, Senpai's son, Hatake Kakashi. Yabuki touched Sakura, who seemed to have fallen asleep in her arms, and there was a little sadness in her eyes. But I pity this child, he has experienced so many things at such a young age. In the year when White Fang, Senpai had an accident, this child had to bear a lot of pressure. I didn't understand in the past, but after becoming a mother, I began to understand more and more how difficult it is for a child to leave his parents. Yabuki was talking about Kakashi, but Nangongja remembered that he still had a sister. Those years without parents, he and his sister's difficult survival experience was so clear. Did I say something wrong? Looking at Nangongja's appearance, Yabuki also reacted. Whether it was Nangongja or Nangongro, they were both orphans without parents. Did her words make Nangongja's heart start to feel sad? But Nangongja smiled. It's okay, Yabuki. It's been so long, I've already accepted it. Although some experiences weren't so beautiful, they were still a part of one's life. I can't forget it, but I'm not so restrained. Now, I just want to protect my sister and let her have a better life. Nangongja also reached out and touched the small life in Yabuki's arms. I only hope that these children will not experience so much helplessness and sadness like us. Yabuki also nodded. The boy standing in front of her had grown a lot over the years. Chapter 103. Speaking of which. Was I going to make Sakura my apprentice? Nangongja looked at the little girl in Yachue's arms and wanted to change the topic to Yachue, who had a sad expression on her face. Ah. You still remember? But in fact, I don't want my child to become a ninja. After all, ninja is too dangerous a profession. Every day I am worried that my husband won't be able to come back in person. When he is on a mission, I often can't sleep well. If I can. I really don't want my child to be like her father, always fighting for her life. Yachioi looked at Sakura in her arms, and Sakura seemed to feel her mother's gaze. Her closed eyes slowly opened at this moment. Just as she was about to open her mouth and cry twice, she saw her mother looking at her with a strange look. She was so young, but she stretched out her slightly weak little hand and gently placed it on her mother's face, as if she was comforting her mother. I know what you mean, Yabuki. After all, I also understand the sorrow of being a ninja. But although the war has calmed down now, maybe one day it will break out again. Our generation is still alive, and we can do our best to protect the next generation. But once we lose the ability to protect them, are we just going to watch them get bullied? Nangongja said such a cruel fact very seriously, and at the same time, he also offered his own suggestion to Yachioi. How about this? When Sakura is about the age, let her come to me, I will teach her some self-defense techniques. Then send her to a ninja school to learn some basic ninja knowledge. I will ask Roro to let Sakura be assigned to Kiba Hospital as much as possible. So you don't have to worry about her facing all kinds of dangers, and at the same time, she can have some ability to protect herself. How about it? Yachioi looked at Nangongja, and at the same time, she carefully thought about Nangongja's suggestion. In fact, Yabuki also knew that it was impossible for her daughter not to become a ninja. Although her husband was usually submissive to her, when it came to the topic of ninjas, he would become extremely stubborn. Moreover, in order to survive in such a world, one must have some ability to protect oneself. Since Nangongja was willing to help him in this way, why not? However, Yachioi still decided not to agree so quickly. She still had to seek her husband's approval, right? I'll think about it myself. Once I've made a decision, I'll inform you. Nangongja also knew that this kind of matter related to his child naturally couldn't be decided so easily, so he didn't say anything. Yachioi suddenly stretched out his hand and placed Sakura in front of Nangongja. Help me keep an eye on Sakura. I'll go help little sister Rower and little sister Mashiro make dinner. You men are all like this. You don't know how difficult it is to prepare 3 meals. Nangongja just wanted to explain that it wasn't that he didn't understand, but when he was pushed out of the kitchen. Yachioi had already strode into the kitchen, and at the same time, there began to be faint whispers in the kitchen. Nangongja thought that it might be a private conversation between women and girls, so he didn't concentrate on what they were talking about. Instead, he lifted Xiaoying, who was in his arms, and looked at her carefully. Sakura also looked at the unfamiliar person in front of her. Some of her long hair was not tied up, but floating in front of her. A pair of eyebrows, different from the gentleness in her youth, slowly began to condense a kind of aggressive edge. Ah! Ah! Sakura, who was still a little vague, reached out her small hand again. She grabbed a strand of hair floating in front of Nangongja's forehead and pulled it, as if she wanted to see why this person's hair was so different from her own. It was so black. The young Sakura didn't have much strength, so she didn't hurt Nangongja. Instead, it made Nangongja feel that the child in front of him was very cute. You like to torment people at such a young age. When you grow up, I don't know how many people will be tormented by you. Although the words were not pleasant to hear, Nangongja still had a smile on his face. He directly sat in the courtyard's corridor and put Sakura on his lap. He slowly teased the child. Time passed just like that. Nangongja played with Sakura on his lap. The child's unique laughter echoed in the somewhat empty courtyard. It seemed that everything was infected by the child's laughter. A gentle breeze blew gently. Little Birdie also kept showing off her singing voice. Suddenly, Nangongja felt that someone was standing next to him, so he turned his head and saw that his sister was already standing next to him. I thought that you were the kind of person who didn't like children. I didn't expect you to have so much fun with Sakura. Nangongro pouted her small mouth and pointed at Sakura's forehead as if she was complaining, every time I carry this child, she will make a lot of noise. But in the end, she has so much fun with you. You're so young, but you already know the difference between a boy and a girl? Nangongja knew that his sister was deliberately teasing, but he still played along with his sister's words. Maybe that's true. After all, I'm quite handsome. Don't you think so, Sakura? As he spoke, Nangongja carried Sakura, who was sitting on his lap. And Sakura was very cooperative. Yeah. Yeah. As if answering Nangongja's question, she waved her small hands happily. Nangongja raised his eyebrows and looked at his sister standing next to him. It was as if he was saying, see if I'm right. Nangongro didn't care about Nangongja's teasing at the moment. She just silently sat next to Nangongja. When we were in the town, the blacksmith uncle passed away when Nine Tails attacked the village. I was the one who saved him and covered him with a white cloth. Nangongja had been wondering why Makoto Hatake from the Hatake family, who had helped him and his sister a lot, wasn't invited by Nangongro. At this moment, Nangongro told him the reason. Uncle? Fine, fine. Life and death are fated. Since uncle has passed away, then I'll find a day to give him a bouquet of flowers. It's a blessing to leave this world as soon as possible. I only hope that uncle can be reincarnated in a more peaceful world. Chapter 104. Let's go. Since you're here, the food must be ready. Let's leave those unhappy things for later. Let's go eat first. Nangongja looked at Nangongro, who was sitting next to him, and reached out his hand to scratch his sister's nose. This caused Nangongro to be dissatisfied, but it also dispelled the heavy atmosphere from before. Mashiro and Little Linger also came out with a few small tables. On each table, there were some exquisite side dishes and rice. Mashiro also specially put a small pot of sake on Nangongja's table. I don't know what you learned during this period of seclusion, but you learned a lot about drinking. Mashiro put the table in front of Nangongja and rolled her eyes at Nangongja. Mashiro was the first person to know Nangongja after he came out of seclusion, so she naturally knew about Nangongja's drinking problem. Although she didn't like Nangongja drinking, she still prepared a small pot of sake for Nangongja. Brother Nangong, guess which dish was made by Little Linger? Little Linger just came out of the kitchen and saw Nangongja, so she clung to Nangongja. At this time, when she saw the dishes in front of Nangongja, she also wanted Nangongja to guess which dish was made by her. Little Linger's pair of small eyes stared at Nangongja, making him a little scared. Okay, let brother see. Nangongja looked at the side dishes on his table. There was a sori, stir-fried vegetables, miso soup, and a bowl of rice. None of them were particularly difficult to make. Nangongja really didn't know which one was made by Little Linger. So he pointed at the miso soup. This one? Nangongja looked at Little Linger, but Little Linger didn't seem to be in a good mood. After she snorted, she pouted, which made Nangongja feel a little embarrassed. Okay, brother is just teasing you. You made this stir-fried vegetables, right? Xiao Ling still had a look of indifference on her face. That little mouth of hers that was curled up even higher at this moment. If it wasn't the miso soup or stir-fried vegetables, then could it be that this sori was made by Little Linger? Nangongja could only quickly point at the sori and say, Little Linger, this should be made by you, right? However, Little Linger got even angrier. There were only these few dishes. In the end, her brother Nangong still didn't get it right. She reached out a pair of small hands, grabbed Nangongja's ears, and pulled, Brother, you idiot. You can't even guess it? Nangongja was really helpless. There were only 3 dishes on the table. Didn't he already guess it? If even this was wrong, Nangongja felt helpless. Okay, little Zhe. Little Linger made the rice in front of you. It was Yichui who saw Nangongja being tortured by Little Linger, so she laughed and said. However, Nangongja didn't take the bait. Instead, he opened his mouth and said something that made Little Linger even angrier. White rice is also considered a dish. Suddenly, everyone in the room burst into laughter. Even Sakura, who was in Yichui's arms, giggled at this moment. She even used her small hand to point at Nangongja and Little Linger, who were playing tricks at this moment. Kakashi, who was originally in low spirits, lowered his head to finish the food in front of him. At this moment, he also spat out a mouthful of miso soup that he just drank. Seeing everyone laughing, Little Linger felt a little embarrassed. She could only reach out her hand and hit Nangongja's head. Then she ran to her seat and began to finish the food in front of her. On the other hand, Nangongja was still looking at everyone with a dumbfounded expression. It was as if his brain hadn't turned yet, which made people laugh. The dinner passed in a happy atmosphere like this. After saying goodbye to Yichui and Kakashi, Nangongja finally sat in the living room and picked up a miscellaneous book to read. Nangong-ro and Mashiro also sat next to Nangongja after packing up. As for Little Linger? At this moment, she didn't have the sulky look from before at all. She happily read the manga published by Woodleaf. In these manga, they are all adapted from some of the well-known ninjas of Konoha, which is also a kind of ideological education, right? Brother Nangong, are all ninjas so powerful? Little Linger held her manga book at this time and went in front of Nangongja. After grabbing the miscellaneous books in Nangongja's hands, she threw them to the ground. Then, she extended the manga in her hand in front of Nangongja. Her small hand even pointed at the figure of a ninja who was showing off his might in the manga. Nangongja looked at it carefully. The ninja above seemed to be the founder of Woodleaf, Senju Takuma. The person you are talking about is the first Hokage of Woodleaf, known as the god of ninjutsu, Senju Takuma. Naturally, he is very powerful. At that time, the 9-tailed beasts that wantonly destroyed the ninja world were subdued by Hashirama-sama one by one and distributed to the major ninja villages to balance the strength of all parties. It also allowed the shinobi world to go from the Warring States period to the current 5 countries era. When Nangongja explained Senju Takuma to Little Linger, he also explained the history of the ninja world to Little Linger. The more Little Linger listened, the more she didn't understand, and her pair of small eyes began to shine more and more. Oni-san. Can I also be a ninja? Nangongja never thought that Little Linger would ask him such a question. After all, in Nangongja's consciousness, the little girl standing in front of him was still a very young girl. Since he can protect her well, why should he let her do such a dangerous job? However, Nangongja remembered what he just said to Yabuki. This era is a chaotic time, since he will grow old one day, then he must make all kinds of preparations for everyone close to him. Since Little Linger is not resistant to becoming a ninja, then why not give Little Linger a chance to choose for herself? You can, but you are already past the age of Kiba Ninja School's enrollment. If you want to go to a ninja school, you may need to study well, and then you can go to a grade suitable for your age. Nangongja considered that Little Linger's age is close to 10 years old. For a ninja school that is often 6 or 7 years old, it is too old. So, Oni-san will train you well. If you can't hold on, then don't go to a ninja school. After all, Oni-san doesn't want you to be a ninja, but can only mix in the position of a genin. Do you understand? Chapter 105. Knock knock. There was a clear knock on the door. Nangongja was standing in front of a room. This is the residence of Yondaime Hokage, and also the residence of Shina Kushina and her son Naruto. Who is it? A familiar voice sounded from behind the door, and the door slowly opened a crack. "Sinai Q, it's me, Nangongja." Nangongja poked his head out of the door and looked at Shina Kushina inside. "Ah. Nangongja, I'm sorry. The house is a bit messy, I don't know why you are here." He didn't know why, but at this moment, Shina Kushina looked full of vigilance, and her eyes were full of fatigue. "Ah. I recently asked for a long leave from the 3 generations, and during this time, the 3 generations asked me to take care of you and Naruto Komatsu." Nangongja tried to make the smile on his face softer, and Shina Kushina seemed to realize that it was inappropriate to let Nangongja stand at the door, so she opened the door wider and let Nangongja enter the room to talk. Nangongja walked into the door and saw the inside of the house. The floor was full of debris, and obviously it hasn't been cleaned up for a long time. "I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired these days. I didn't tidy up the house properly, I'm sorry." Shina Kushina seemed to feel that she didn't tidy up the house properly, and it was a bit disrespectful to Nangongja. So she quickly explained. "It seems that after Yondaime left, your life wasn't so good?" Nangongja guessed, and Shina Kushina could only pull the hair on her forehead with her hand and sighed heavily. Since Watergate left Woodleaf, there have been many people hiding in the dark, trying to investigate the situation of Naruto and me. Although I have some strength, I'm still worried that Naruto will be affected by these people. These days, the 3 generations sent us some necessities and food. Nangongja also knew that Shina Kushina's situation wasn't good. It's only been half a year since the Nine Tails attacked the village, and as the former Nine Tails column force, Shina Kushina, although her identity is confidential, as long as one is interested, one can always find clues. What's more, Yondaime sealed the 9 tails in the body of a newborn in front of everyone, and it's not difficult to associate it with Yondaime's newborn child. What's more, Naruto is a person with the Uzumaki clan's physique, which makes people think that the new 9 tails column force is Naruto's head. For the major ninja villages, tailed beasts are a strategic weapon. As long as they can figure out the situation of Woodleaf's tailed beasts, any sacrifice is worth it. Even if the 3 generations sent a large number of direct Umbu to be responsible for the safety of Shina Kushina and Naruto, it's still not enough. In the end, it's still a drop in the bucket. Even if many spies of hostile forces are eliminated every day, there are still some powerful spies that the Umbu can't guard against. This is also one of the reasons why the 3 generations wanted Nangongja to protect Shina Kushina and her son. "I know, Sinai Q, if you don't mind, I will take care of you. I can take you and Naruto Komatsu to my place and protect you. 3 generations will arrange a stand-in here to continue to confuse some people with ulterior motives. Although column force is of great importance, as long as this period of time is over. Other ninja villages won't have so much energy to invest a lot of manpower and material resources to spy on you." Nangongja talked about the solution he discussed with the 3 generations earlier and wanted to ask for Shina Kushina's opinion. Although the major ninja villages have some speculations about the identity of the 9 tails column force, such behavior of constantly burying their own spies is unacceptable to the major ninja villages. As long as this storm passed, there wouldn't be such high-intensity snooping behavior anymore. Shina Kushina also understood this, so she nodded, indicating that she has no objection. "What's the exact time?" Nangongja thought for a while and then said, "If possible, now is the best time. I have already greeted the Umbu outside, and the stand-in is also ready. I will temporarily place you and Naruto Komatsu in the different space where my summon beast lives, and I will let you come back when you arrive at my house." "Okay, then I will go and pack some necessary things. Then I will take Naruto Komatsu with you." Shina Kushina nodded and went to Naruto's room on the 2nd floor of her house. She looked at Naruto, who was still wrapped in swaddling clothes and sleeping soundly. After touching Naruto's head, she turned around and packed her luggage. Nangongja also followed Shina Kushina and saw Yondaime-sama's child Naruto. I heard from the 3 generations that Yandeme-sama hopes that Naruto can take Sinai-Q's surname, Uzumaki. I think he also hopes that those hostile forces will shift their attention away from Naruto, right? Shina Kushina, who was packing, also trembled at this moment. Yes. In order to protect Naruto, Watergate has also worked very hard. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to find out who was spying on Nine Tails, and even released Nine Tails at that time, Watergate wouldn't have left Woodleaf Village like this. Even the news is intermittent. Shina Kushina said, but a slight sobbing sound came out. During this time, not only the safety of herself and her child was not guaranteed, even her husband was alone outside, which really made Shina Kushina's heart accumulated too much pressure. Nangongja put his hand on Shina Kushina's shoulder. He hoped that he could give Shina Kushina some comfort. You and I both know the strength of Yandeme-sama. There may be some people in the entire ninja world who can defeat Yandeme-sama, but no one can really kill Yandeme-sama. And you and Naruto, after this period of time, will also return to normal. I also hope that Sinai-Q can take good care of yourself and the young Naruto Komatsu. When Yandeme-sama returns to the village, he can see a healthy and happy wife and a healthy child, right? Although Nangongja knew that what he was saying now was just his opinion, Nangongja knew that it was only his opinion. But if it can make Shina Kushina's heart can be a little relieved, it's worth it. Don't worry. Shina Kushina stopped the movement of her hand and turned to look at Nangongja standing behind her. After wiping the little tears from the corner of her eyes with her hand, she showed a strong smile. I am Yandeme-sama's wife, and I am also a qualified ninja. As long as there is hope in the future, I will never give up easily. Even if the future is dark, I believe that Watergate will find a bright path with me. Chapter 106. Come on. Nangongja looked at the girl in front of him who had become bruised, and still looked at him with a pair of cold eyes. This girl was Little Linger, the one who told Nangongja that she wanted to become a ninja and enter the ninja school. In order to let Little Linger keep up with the learning progress of the ninja school, Nangongja let Nangong-ro teach Little Linger some basic ninja knowledge, and he taught Little Linger taijutsu. Although most ninjas rely on a variety of strange or powerful ninjutsu and genjutsu to attack. But most of the time, in order to save chakra in their body. If they can use taijutsu to solve the problem, they will focus on taijutsu. A ninja who is very good at taijutsu is not necessarily a top ninja, but a top ninja must be a ninja with strong taijutsu. Little Linger wiped her face with her hand, hoping to reduce the dust on her face. But the dirt on her hand made her white and tender face even dirtier. Little Linger didn't protest. From childhood to adulthood, whether it was with her grandfather, Nangongja, or Mashiro, she went to Kagekure. Little Linger was basically protected by the people around her. Although it was a bit exaggerated to say that she didn't do any chores, but it was not far off. Since Nangongja trained her in this way. Little Linger didn't know how many bruises on her body, and how many tears she secretly shed. But Nangongja didn't reduce his strength. Instead, when he found that Little Linger could accept this level of strength, he increased his strength by a bit. Every day, Ling would suffer all kinds of injuries of varying degrees. Fortunately, Nangong-ro was a qualified medical ninja, and Nangongja was also very measured. So basically, after a night, Little Linger will recover. Then she will suffer the next day's torture. Ha! Little Linger made a soft roar, and her whole body rushed toward Nangongja. She even pulled out a kunai from behind her back with her small hands. This was Nangongja's requirement for Little Linger. She can use any weapon, she can use any means. As long as she can leave a little injury on her body, she won't have to go through this kind of training. Directly to the ninja school. Nangongja will only use taijutsu to fight, and he won't even use internal strength or weapons. But Mashiro, Nangong-ro, and even Shina Kushina felt that Nangongja deliberately didn't want Little Linger to go to the ninja school. After all, although Nangongja hasn't reached the level of a Kage, he is only one step away. Moreover, Nangongja is good at swordsmanship, and his taijutsu is naturally very strong. To let a little girl who hasn't trained for a long time attack Nangongja, and even leave a wound on Nangongja's body. It is simply too difficult a challenge. But Nangongja insisted that little Linger must be trained like this, and the girls had no way to stop Nangongja. Yabuki, who occasionally came here, saw Nangongja's training method, and from time to time, she muttered in her heart whether to let her daughter come to Nangongja to learn. After all, Nangongja didn't go easy on little Linger, and for her daughter, Yabuki was very distressed. How could she be willing to let Nangongja train like this? After this period of training, little Linger's speed, strength, flexibility, and other aspects have improved greatly. Soon, she arrived in front of Nangongja. Obviously, she was holding a kunai in one hand, but she still used a skillful fist technique to practice with Nangongja. Not bad. This set of fist technique was originally summarized by me for Ro-er. But Ro-er doesn't like boxing, so it has been idle. I thought that you might be very suitable for this set of fist technique, so I taught it to you. I didn't expect that in such a short time, you have already learned 3 of it. Both of their fists and feet were clearly clashing, but Nangongja looked like he was handling a butcher's cleaver with ease. He even leisurely to the point where he started to evaluate little Linger's fist technique. Little Linger is a very proud person. Such behavior is no different from the highest degree of provocation. What's more, these words were said by her favorite brother Nangong, which made little Linger's heart more angry. She didn't speak, but instead, the fist in her hand became sharper. She had to answer everything Nangongja said with every blow. Nangongja also secretly nodded. A person is not afraid of their own negative emotions. What is afraid is that a person will be affected by their own emotions and be implicated. Whether it is anger or injustice, the right way to vent it can increase a person's combat power. The two of them have exchanged dozens of blows, and slowly, little Linger fell into a disadvantage. After all, little Linger is still very young, and her physical fitness has not really reached the point where it can be compared to an adult. The speed and strength of the punches kept decreasing, and the fist technique began to become a little messy. Soon after, a huge flaw appeared in Ling Er's defense. Her left abdomen did not defend against Nangongja's attack, and Nangongja's palm hit her left abdomen. She instantly lost her balance and fell back. But Nangongja has no intention of stopping. He stretched out one hand and grabbed little Linger's arm, and the other hand supported little Linger's waist. He threw little Linger in his hand to the ground behind him. This time is still considered. Nangongja knew that little Linger has no more strength to fight, so he withdrew his strength. He was ready to teach little Linger a good lesson, so that she can understand the strengths and weaknesses of this training. But before he finished his sentence, a kunai flew towards Nangongja's face. But the kunai's flight path was too simple for Nangongja, so Nangongja easily caught the kunai in his hand. This move is not bad. Nangongja looked at the kunai in his hand, and even fiddled with it a few times. However, the unresigned Ling Er, who was sitting opposite him, had a strange smirk on her face. "Brother Nangong, there is something even better." Just as little Linger spoke, Nangongja found a shallow wound on his ankle, and a very thin shuriken was inserted into the tree trunk behind him. "I've never intended to defeat you in a direct confrontation, big brother. All you ask of me is to leave a wound on your body. No matter how shallow, no matter how small it is, it's fine." Little Linger's face showed a bright smile. It was obvious that Ling Er did not completely exhaust her stamina during the face-to-face training. Instead, she had left a little bit of it. After Nangongja relaxed a little, little Linger threw a kunai at Nangongja's face. She distracted Nangongja, and at the same time, her other hand secretly grabbed the specially made shuriken and threw it towards Nangongja's ankle. Because the wound was very small, Nangongja only paid attention to little Linger, and did not feel anything. Nangongzhi suddenly felt that he had been through a lot, and now he suddenly capsized in front of little Linger. He felt very uncomfortable. His bitter face naturally made the few girls watching from the side clap and cheer. Chapter 107. It seems that you have miscalculated. You didn't really intend to let Linger go to the ninja school to study. But you were tricked by little Linger. This time you have to fulfill your promise. Mashiro walked to Nangongzhi's side and put her little hand on Nangongzhi's shoulder. She said half-jokingly. But Nangongzhi shook his head and looked at Mashiro beside him. He said with a smile, "Do you think little Ling can really hide from me so easily?" After saying that, he left without looking back, leaving Mashiro standing there in a daze. Indeed, little Linger left a shallow wound on Nangongzhi's body with a sneak attack. Naturally, it was extremely delicate. Fortunately, little Linger was quick-witted enough to think of such a trick. However, Nangongzhi wasn't just a theoretical ninja who worked behind closed doors. He was a real fierce man who killed his way out of the battlefield with his sword and spear. On the battlefield, both sides would attack and defend, and all kinds of dirty tricks would emerge one after another. How could Nangongzhi fall for such a shallow trap? Mashiro thought for a moment and looked at Nangongzhi, who had walked a little further away. For a moment, she felt that the boy she had known for a long time became more and more thoughtful. Then she thought about herself and couldn't help but shake her head. Everything in the world is like this. If you don't let others down, you let yourself down. In the end, it's just another sad person in the world. At this moment, Nangongzhi was mumbling something that made people scratch their heads. It seems like it's time to find something to do. In fact, if an ordinary person wanted to enter the ninja school, they would have to go through all kinds of strict selections. Only those who had a certain amount of aptitude to become a ninja could enter the ninja school. Especially for transfer students like little Linger, the requirements were naturally stricter. But with an elite jonin like Nangongzhi as a guarantor, all the problems were easily solved. In order for little Linger to have an official wood-leaf household register, Nangongzhi also added little Linger to his household register, using the name Nangongling to register. Little Linger didn't object. Instead, she was happy after hearing the news. She leaned on Nangongzhi's face and kissed him fiercely. Nangong Ro and Zhenbai, who were watching from the side, were slightly jealous. In the blink of an eye, little Linger had been studying in the ninja school for almost a week. Little Linger thought that everyone in the ninja school should be a qualified ninja. At least, they wouldn't be inferior to her after being trained by Nangongzhi. As a result, little Linger quickly discovered the truth of the matter. Looking around at his class, there were 7 or 8 students lying on their desks and sleeping soundly. There were also many people who secretly put some magazines under the textbook, holding back the smile on their face with a serious face. There was even a more outrageous one who put a makeup box on the table in front of her. Unhurriedly, she held a variety of brushes and applied a variety of powders, creams, and makeup to her face to her heart's content. If it weren't for the fact that I'm a student here, I wouldn't have believed anyone who told me that the students of the Ninja Academy are lazy. On the podium, a teacher with thick glasses that looked like the bottom of a glass bottle was drawing various complicated and trivial physics problems on the blackboard with great concentration. Not only did he not care that his students were busy with their own trivial matters at the moment, but he seemed to be completely immersed in the knowledge he was teaching. A variety of formulas sprayed out of the teacher's mouth like bullets. Even Xiaoling felt an irresistible drowsiness welling up in her heart at this moment. Sure enough, every outstanding physics teacher is the world's top hypnotist. The ancients didn't lie to me. Dang dang dang, the melodious bell rang throughout the campus. Like a huge palm suddenly grabbed the mouth of a glass bottle, the teacher immediately turned around, picked up the thick brick-like book on the podium and walked out of the classroom. The students in the classroom at the moment were like seriously ill people who were injected with a cardiac stimulant, and they instantly became excited. The sound of sobbing could only be heard in fear that it would not be able to break through the clouds. Even the birds that were originally perched on the trees in the campus were frightened and flew high. Have you heard? A new mouse came to the school to teach us combat lessons. A girl who was wearing makeup just now turned around and looked at her friend who was sitting next to her. She was clearly very young, but she dressed herself up extremely coquettishly, and talked about the small gossip in the school. The coquettish girl listened to the makeup girl's words, and her face was instantly filled with disdain. Forget it, the person who teaches in the ninja school. If it's not a serious injury on the battlefield that can't continue to be a ninja, then it's those who are not good at fighting. Teaching us combat lessons? I don't know what kind of idiot it is. But the makeup girl shook her head at the moment, trying to deny the rumors girl's words. Yuri Koyuri, you don't know. This teacher is super handsome. Someone seemed to have seen this teacher at the teaching office, and it seems that this teacher is a jonin. He just took a long leave to stay in Woodleaf, hoping to spend more time with his family. After the principal heard about it, he even begged the 3 generations, and this teacher reluctantly agreed. Doesn't he come to school every day, only when he's willing to occasionally teach us a lesson or two? The coquettish girl, Yuri Koyuri, also seemed to be a little energetic at this moment, and her face was filled with expectation. Jonin? It's not that I haven't seen one before, but it's really the first time I saw a jonin teaching in the ninja school. I don't know what kind of person he is, even the 3 generations can't invite him. The makeup girl also shook her head, and then said, I don't know, even if it's Yuri Koyuri, your Uchiha family doesn't have such a character. Yuri Koyuri is actually a member of the Uchiha family. His hair that has always been loose was blown by the wind outside the window, revealing Yuri Koyuri's Uchiha family tattoo printed on his clothes. After listening to the makeup girl's words, Yuri Koyuri suddenly seemed to be angry. A pair of narrow phoenix eyes stared at the girl who has a good relationship with him, and said with a serious and oppressive tone, some words can't be said casually. Our Uchiha family, is it something a small family like yours can casually comment on? The girl looked at Yuri Koyuri beside her in a daze, and suddenly felt that this person and the Yuri Koyuri she knows are not the same person at all. Even her body was trembling with fear. As for little Linger? Naturally, she has no interest in the feelings between these 2 girls, but the content of their conversation, little Linger faintly guessed. Chapter 108. Not long after, it was the turn of little Linger's class to go to the actual combat class. The actual combat class was often held in the open space of the ninja school, and little Linger's class was no exception. At this moment, the youngsters were also extremely excited. Perhaps a new and powerful teacher would be a rare and interesting topic for the children? Although the little ones didn't do anything serious during the theory class, every time during the actual combat class, they would give 120% of their energy. For a ninja, you cannot do well in the exam, you cannot do well in theory, but if your actual combat is bad, then it's really shameful. The actual combat class of the ninja school generally doesn't involve ninjutsu. After all, how much chakra can a group of children who are still in the ninja school? It's just a few low-level D-class ninjutsu, and it's enough to drain their chakra. The future ninjas also stood in line at the moment. Of course, there were all kinds of voices. It was so noisy that people's ears were buzzing. Dang dang dang, when the bell rang, the little ones lowered their voices a little. At the same time, a person wearing a white bamboo hat with the word "fire" written on it appeared in front of everyone in a cloud of smoke. Although the little people were lawless, when they saw the leader of the Woodleaf village, the 3 generations Hokage still respectfully shouted together, "Greetings, 3 generations Hokage." In fact, the little people also knew that the 3 generations Hokage had to go to such a place. After all, a jonin who can be regarded as a high-end combat power in the Woodleaf village came to teach in the ninja school, and it was worthy of the attention of the Hokage. The appearance of the Hokage was also a kind of respect for Nangong-ja. Seeing a group of little people respectfully saluting at the moment, the 3 generations Hokage couldn't help but have a lot of smiles on his face. These days, he has dealt with a lot of troublesome things, whether it's light or dark. Indeed, he was a little tired. After all, he was old, and this kind of intrigue really made him a little weak. This time, coming to the Ninja Academy to meet and chat with this group of little people is also a rare opportunity for the 3 generations to relax. Thus, he extended his hands and gestured downwards as a response to the group of little people's greetings. I think the elders in your family have already informed you that today is the first time the ninja school will have an elite Jonin class. This was a creative step for Woodleaf. Every child was the future hope of Woodleaf Village. You are far more important than an old man like me. We will also slowly give more and more excellent resources to Kiba Ninja School and Woodleaf Ninja Hospital. Not only will those who have contributed to the Woodleaf Academy and can no longer go to the battlefield teach in the Woodleaf Academy, but more and more fresh and powerful ninjas will come to Kiba Ninja School to teach you. I believe that in the long run, Konoha will become stronger and stronger, and the tree of Konoha will grow even stronger. This is not only the responsibility of our group of adults, but also the common goal of every child who attends Konoha's Ninja Academy. Looking at the 3 generations Hokage standing on the short podium, the little people below were also sleepy. On the contrary, a group of newspaper and magazine reporters who heard that the 3 generations Hokage was going to speak at the Ninja Academy were standing below at the moment, taking notes and taking photos. There is no way, the speech of a person in a high position has a symbolic meaning for everyone. It's not a dispensable speech, not to mention that the Sandem-sama's goal of supporting Konoha's Ninja Academy and Konoha's Ninja Hospital is indeed a great thing. If it is really implemented, it will also let every ninja family living in Woodleaf enjoy a lot of practical benefits. It is very conducive to stabilizing the situation in Woodleaf, so that the originally turbulent lake will once again return to its original calm. So, we believe this pioneering effort would definitely allow every child to receive the best education. Let every villager get a practical benefit. We will continue to persist. Thank you. The 3 generations finally finished the long speech and bowed to the audience below. Naturally, everyone warmly applauded. The group of young children also lost their sleepiness when they heard the excited applause from the teachers and reporters next to them. At the same time, they also didn't know why the 3 generations Hokage enthusiastically applauded with this group of people. Although they didn't understand what the 3 generations Hokage said for a long time, they didn't say a word about the new teacher. The 3 generations also slowly walked down the stage in this noisy applause. A young man came over to greet the 3 generations Hokage. The 3 generations Hokage shook hands for a while and walked to the stage. Everyone standing below the stage was observing the young man who had just stepped onto the stage. A slightly long hair was casually tied behind the young man's head. A few strands of hair were playfully not tied up, but hanging in front of the forehead, from time to time swayed by the wind. The young man's face was a little thin, but it didn't look weak at all. Instead, it was like a knife. There was a particularly cold feeling emitting from it. And the most embodiment of the young man's temperament that no one can ignore is naturally the young man's pair of eyes. Under the contrast of the sword-like eyebrows, a pair of dark eyes were so obvious. Everyone who was looked at by the young man would subconsciously feel something invading their bodies. An inexplicable chill rose from the bottom of their hearts, causing goosebumps to rise all over their bodies. The tall and thin body stood there. The black robe was blown by the wind from time to time, revealing the bright red lining. On the left arm was a somewhat hollowed-out full-arm armor that has become a little black. In some places that are difficult to wash, some scarlet residue can be seen faintly. On the back of the young man, there was a black sword. Although it was swallowed by the scabbard, a wisp of cold air was emitted from the long sword from time to time. I am Nangongja, Woodleaf Elite Jonin. In the 3 World Wars, I participated in the Sand War, Kyumo Shinobu War, and the Mist War. Completed 23 D-level missions, 56 C-level missions, 64 B-level missions, 132 A-level missions, 13 S-level missions, 7 SS-level missions, and 4 SSS-level missions. When I was in the Sand War, I was called Yama by the Sand Ninjas, and since then I have such a nickname. This time, at the invitation of the 3 generations Hokage, I am temporarily guiding the students of the ninja school. That's all. After that, Nangongja bowed and walked down the stage. Little Ling, who was standing below, couldn't help but have a pair of sparkling eyes. Such a person is her family, her brother Nangong. Some other reporters and ninjas heard Nangongja's amazing record and couldn't help but slightly look sideways. This time, is the 3 generations Hokage showing their muscles in disguise? Although the 3 generations Hokage left, there are still such people who listen to the orders of the 3 generations Hokage. Some people who had ulterior motives couldn't help but retract their thoughts. Chapter 109. After all, this is just an introduction meeting for the new teachers of the ninja school. Although Nangongja's amazing resume has indeed dazzled a group of people, in the end, the most important role is still the 3 generations Hokage as the leader of the Woodleaf village. When the 3 generations Hokage left, the bustling crowd became sparse. In addition to the students and teachers who came out of the ninja school, all the unrelated personnel were quickly asked to leave the ninja school. A group of children below is also talking about the 3 generations Hokage and their young but extraordinarily powerful teacher. Hey sensei, do you like a girl? It has to be said that the children of Woodleaf Village are precocious. In just a short time, many people have already crowded around Nangongja and asked a variety of questions. Some of the bolder ones have begun to ask a lot of private questions. On the other hand, Nangongja only smiled embarrassedly before he exerted force with his feet and left the dangerous area surrounded by a group of people. He clapped his hands, indicating that his future students can be quiet. Well, we will have a lot of time to continue to get along. There are some private topics, we can talk about it slowly after class. Now we are mainly going to start our actual combat teaching. Seeing that the teacher has spoken, the students below can't say anything more. They just responded in unison, and then began to form 4 neat groups, waiting for their teacher to teach. Very good, everyone can be quiet so quickly, it's not bad. I also have a general understanding of the learning progress and learning attitude of the students. Nangongja nodded, but halfway through his words, he raised his head and glanced at the faces of the children standing in front of him with his eyes. I have to say, you really let me down a little. Nangongja's words set off an uproar in the hearts of the students. Every child who has the qualifications to become a ninja and has been persisting in the ninja school until such a high grade, even if they don't say it, they still have some pride in their hearts. After all, a ninja is a completely different class from ordinary people. It can be said that the difference between a ninja and an ordinary person is like the difference between clouds and mud. Even if you are a poor ninja, you will be more noble than the richest ordinary person in the world. This is the status that strength brings to a ninja. You can deny a ninja's character, you can also despise a ninja's appearance. But you can never ignore the power level of a ninja. Genin who graduated after a year will learn at least 5 D-class ninjutsu under the guidance of their instructors, and even C-class or B-class ninjutsu. Such a genin can at least wipe out a village of hundreds of people through assassination and other means. Teacher, how can you say that? All of us have worked hard to train ourselves, and we are all very capable. You haven't properly tested our actual combat performance, and you said such a thing. Don't you think it's beneath your status as a teacher? Some of the students have begun to talk about it, and a lot of harsh words were passed to Nangongja's ears. Nangongja looked at the group of children who were defending themselves, and his face hung a bit of a smile. Others don't know Nangongja, but how can little Linger not know Nangongja? This kind of smile was not a kind smile. Every time Nangongja ruthlessly trained himself, such a smile never disappeared from his face. Sure enough, Nangongzhi quietly looked at the group of children who were talking about it. He didn't have any intention to interrupt. And this approach made the group of ninjas on the opposite side more energetic. All kinds of words became more and more unpleasant to hear. There are even a lot of people who have begun to criticize Nangongzhi for fabricating his own mission resume. People are often like this. When they meet an existence that far surpasses them in all aspects, they will subconsciously devalue their own existence. Subconsciously, he began to belittle the other party's existence in his own consciousness. Perhaps this was the only way to give himself some psychological comfort and reduce the gap in his heart. If the one who is being belittled doesn't fight back, then it is simply wonderful. It was like pouring a bottle of turpentine on a bonfire. Ordinary things couldn't even extinguish the flames of envy and jealousy in his heart. And what is Nangongzhi's choice? A strong momentum swept through the entire combat activity area in an instant, as if a storm suddenly hit the land. Countless leaves, petals, and dust were stirred up. It even alarmed some of the students who were in class closer to here, and they opened the classroom window to look here. The group of children standing opposite Nangongzhi, at this moment, the hair on their bodies stood up, and they didn't even dare to move. They all had a strange feeling at the same time, as if a blade was placed on their necks. A kind of coldness from the bottom of their hearts instantly swept through their whole body. Oh. You are talking so happily because you want to refute my point of view? Nangongzhi clearly stimulated such a strong momentum, but at this moment, he still looked relaxed. He didn't have the slightest sense of authority that relied on his aura to suppress others. But the more he was like this, the more the group of children below were frightened. Such a person really made one's hair stand on end. Let's not talk about other times for the time being. In the end, how many of you are in class except for the actual combat class? I have quietly observed you. When you are in class, except for studying, you really do everything. With this kind of attitude, you want to be a ninja who can take charge of everything on their own? Even if you go back and practice for 20,000 years, I don't know if you can guarantee that you can come back with your body intact after going to the battlefield. Nangongzhi's disdain was felt by everyone present. Naturally, there will be some people who will face Nangongzhi's momentum and begin to defend themselves. Sensei. We are ninjas. Everything depends on actual combat, since Sensei thinks that we are not good enough. Then why don't you do a good test, instead of blindly speculating about us? Nangongzhi didn't expect that there would be someone in this group of children who can speak against his momentum. At the beginning, the person who spoke was still intermittent, but slowly, the words became more and more fluent. Oh. Who are you? I am a bit interested in you. Nangongzhi looked at the girl who could speak against his momentum and said. I am Yuri Koyuri, Uchiha Yuri Koyuri. Chapter 110. Yuri Koyuri. Indeed, the best way to measure a ninja is to look at his actual combat ability. However, actual combat ability is also a comprehensive product of various abilities, isn't it? Ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu are the best embodiment of a ninja's chakra, physical fitness, and spiritual power. But these three are all painstaking efforts, and only by really spending a lot of time can these things be improved. And everyone's aptitude is different, and there is an upper limit. After reaching the upper limit, what kind of method can be used to improve oneself? I don't know if Yuri Koyuri has considered this. Nangongzhi said, and also put away his momentum. Many students sat on the ground after losing the pressure of momentum for a moment. Only a few people could barely stand, including Uchiha Yuri Koyuri and Little Linger. Yuri Koyuri also seemed to be asked by Nangongzhi's question, and instead of taking advantage of this precious time to rest, he seriously thought about it. There are also many students who heard Nangongzhi's question and carefully thought about it. These questions have not been thought about by these children, and even many parents who only have chunin or ordinary jonin in their families have not thought about it. After all, Many ordinary jonins have not reached their upper limit in terms of physical strength, spiritual power, and chakra. And the gap between jonin and kage level is just like this. There is no doubt that some people with good aptitude and talent will learn more ninjutsu and have more chakra, and even many jonins have more chakra than some veteran kage level jonins. But there is a qualitative gap between kage level and jonin level, and as long as a kage level is given enough space and environment, ordinary jonins will not have a good result no matter how many of them come. The reason is that kage level not only increases their physical strength, spiritual power, and chakra to the upper limit, and they also sum up all kinds of combat experience, and explore the most suitable combat method for themselves, and achieve the best effect with the least cost. This is easy to say, but it is actually very difficult to do. Because a jonin, whether it's ninjutsu or taijutsu, has an astronomical amount of reserves. But in a real battle, can you use the most suitable method in a fleeting opportunity? Not to mention others, at least Nangongzhi can't guarantee that he can fight without making mistakes. After thinking for a long time, Yuri Koyuri said hesitantly, "Sensei, you should be referring to experience?" "That's right. Isn't a reasonable distribution of combat method that can only be done after accumulating a large amount of experience?" Nangongzhi nodded. "Sure enough, you are very talented. Yes, the limit of's limit, the limit of the brain limit, the limit's limit, the limit of the limit. Is the limit to two's limit, the limit's two's. To be honest, the s-axis, the. This is also the fundamental reason why when it comes to high-end combat power, except for very special circumstances, some basic and simple ninjutsu can be used to win." At this moment, all the students below also lowered their heads and fell into deep thought, because no one had said these words to them before. Although these words are simple, it is nothing more than pointing out the future path for this group of children. "I said that you are disqualified as a ninja. Why is that?" "Because the easiest experience to learn is the truth in the textbooks in your hands. This is a lesson that countless seniors have written for you, a lesson that has been summarized through countless bloody experiences. But how many of you have really attended these classes and listened to the painstaking efforts of many seniors? How can you not be disqualified?" The children lowered their heads, and their eyes were a little confused. They began to slowly reflect on their own actions. Nangongzhi didn't rush them to start the class, because it is more important to understand the truth than the previous class. Since he came here to be a teacher for these children, in Nangongzhi's heart, these children can be regarded as half of his disciples. The most important thing to teach a person is not to teach him skills, but to teach him how to deal with things. The time passed in the meditation of the crowd, different from the days in other classes. This time they are really thinking seriously. Every person who has the opportunity to become a ninja will never be a stupid person who doesn't know how to be reasonable. Dang, the class is not long, it will be over soon, right? The children also came back to their senses under the urging of the bell, and struggled out of their meditation. Well, if there is anything you want to think about it slowly. No matter what the problem is, you can go to the teacher's office to find the teacher. If you can't find the teacher, ask Nangong Ling. Go to the teacher's house to find the teacher. An. Yuri Koyuri. Nangongzhi said, and by the way, he called the little girl who dared to refute his pressure. Yes, teacher. Obviously, Nangongzhi's words have slightly convinced the little girl. After Yuri Koyuri bowed slightly, she looked up at her teacher. There is a touch of respect in her eyes that can't be ignored. You will be the class representative of the combat class in the future. I will look for you if there is anything. Nangongzhi thought about it. This girl is still a moldable talent, so he gave the position of the class representative to this little girl. Yes, thank you, teacher. Yuri Koyuri responded and turned away. Nangongzhi looked at his group of students, shook his head slightly and disappeared. No one knows where he went. Nangong Ling? Yuri Koyuri suddenly walked to Little Linger and called Little Linger. Oh. What is it, Uchiha. Little Linger didn't quite understand what Yuri Koyuri wanted to do, but she still responded out of politeness. In fact, Little Linger admired this girl who dared to talk back to her brother Nangong. After all, Nangong's aura was too terrifying. Even Little Linger, who was so close to Nangong, was faintly afraid. "Teacher Nangong, and you are?" Yuri Koyuri asked. This is normal. After all, Nangong is not a very popular surname. It can even be said to be a rare surname in Woodleaf. In addition, before Nangong left, he specifically mentioned Little Linger's name. Doesn't this show that Nangong Ling and I are very close? Brother Nangong is my sworn brother. I also live in Brother Nangong's house. Anyway, it wasn't a secret, so Xiao Ling told him the truth. If Nangong teacher doesn't have a disciple, can I be his disciple? Chapter 111. Disciple? Little Linger heard Yuri Koyuri's words, and she was a little confused for a while. After all, Nangong was actually a person who didn't like to deal with people. Otherwise, he wouldn't invite acquaintances to his house for dinner, and there were only a few people. If it was another ninja with Nangong's strength, he would have various entanglements with various forces, or exchange for an extraordinary status. Unlike Nangong, who just wanted to get away from all kinds of trouble, and didn't want to do anything, and just stayed at home. I think brother won't accept disciples, right? After all, brother doesn't like troublesome things. Xiao Ling could only smile awkwardly as she spoke with a somewhat complicated mood. Yuri Koyuri looked at Little Linger's appearance, and for a while, he didn't know what to say, and just nodded gently. He said, "N." There was nothing else to say. Nangong didn't agree to the request of the ninja school to take a few more classes, and he said that he wanted to leave enough time to perfect his own practice. Whether it was the 3 generations or the ninja school's higher-ups, there was no way to find a suitable reason to persuade Nangong. After all, whether it was the 3 generations or the ninja school, they didn't have any requirements for how many students Nangong could take. All they wanted was an attitude and a face. It was enough to let everyone see that the 3 generations and the ninja school's higher-ups could invest a lot of resources and energy to cultivate the next generation, and a ninja like Nangong was just right. So when the class was over, Nangong went home. Saying that he wanted to perfect himself wasn't a complete excuse. After all, Nangong's momentum in the class just now made it clear. A person's body has a limit, and Nangong is now in a state where he is close to his limit. However, Nangong's strength had been increasing rapidly over the past few years. Regardless of whether it was swordsmanship or natural energy, they were both broad and profound knowledge. If he wanted to truly master them, he would need a lot more time to settle down. Nangong is also ready to use this long vacation to calm down and sort out his various fighting skills. Then, I will first sort out the most familiar swordsmanship. Nangong muttered to himself. At the beginning, Nangong actually relied on the various swordsmanship essences contained in the god's disaster sword to practice his swordsmanship. It's not bad, it's just that, it's too big a step. The essence of swordsmanship is the way to use the sword, the knack of using the sword. However, it lacked all kinds of basic swordsmanship. This was also the reason why Nangong's swordsmanship was not low, and he even comprehended the profound meaning of sacrifice heart technique when he first arrived in Konoha, but he still had a hard time fighting against Kakashi. Even under the pressure of White Fang's momentum, he was so embarrassed. After that, under the joint teaching of Li Yang and White Fang, Nangong began to slowly come into contact with some of the basics of swordsmanship, but the basics are best learned when a person is a blank piece of paper. Because only at that time, a person won't have any strange habits to form flaws. Obviously, Nangong was a little late. Fortunately, when he walked in the ninja world, he didn't meet any opponents who specialize in swordsmanship. At this time, maybe you will ask Nangong if the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist who didn't practice swordsmanship. The author wants to say that they really didn't practice swordsmanship at all. These people used the swords in their hands as a tool to improve their ninjutsu cultivation, and they didn't really concentrate on swordsmanship. Of course, when Nangongzhi fought with them, he didn't purely rely on swordsmanship, but more on the magic of internal energy and physical fitness. It's funny to say that when Nangongzhi really changed some of his bad habits, it was not long ago in Banishment's spiritual space. Banishment, as the creator of God's retribution sword, was an amazing internal energy cultivator, which completely exposed Nangongzhi's small habits that he covered up with internal energy. Banishment didn't care whether Nangongzhi was pressed for time or not, he just wanted to sharpen Nangongzhi. How could he let go of such a flaw? But since Nangongzhi returned to Woodleaf, he really didn't have much time to reflect on himself. After all, there was a big difference between understanding something in the spiritual space and using it in the real world. After returning, he has been busy comforting his family, scheming against 3 generations, and then helping Shina Kushina to ensure her safety, and training Little Linger. In the end, in order to let Little Linger grow better, 3 generations asked him to be a substitute teacher at the ninja school. These things were really a waste of time and effort, and it was really difficult for Nangongzhi to have time to practice. Fortunately, everything was finally on the right track. A few days ago, Shina Kushina took her child back to her home. Although Nangongzhi still had to ensure the safety of the mother and child, he didn't have to be worried all day long. As long as he had time, he would go and take a look. Little Linger also went to the ninja school, and she didn't just rely on Nangongzhi and Nangongro to teach her. Naturally, it was also a relief. Phew. I didn't expect that I would do so many things. Originally, I just wanted to rest, but in the end, all kinds of things kept coming. Although Nangongzhi always knew that as long as a person was in the Jianghu, he was often helpless. But at this moment, he still felt very tired. And he didn't know why, but Nangongzhi always felt that something was going to happen, and he felt a little uneasy. Forget it, forget it. When the time comes, there will be a way. No matter what is going to happen, I just need to protect my family and friends. As for the rest, I don't care. So Nangongzhi began to slowly practice his various swordsmanship in his mind. From the simplest stabbing, poking, picking, cutting, and breaking, it slowly became more and more complicated, with some of the meaning of the fatal 13 swords. All kinds of swordsmanship instantly became murderous. Then Nangongzhi began to slowly integrate some of the subtleties of the Hitaki family's swordsmanship that he learned from White Fang into his swordsmanship. Swordsmanship and swordsmanship were somewhat interconnected. Integrating White Fang's swordsmanship into his swordsmanship also provided an overbearing feeling to his swordsmanship. In addition, after Nangongzhi learned various light and agile swordsmanship in Banishment, Nangongzhi also extracted the essence of it and integrated it into his swordsmanship. In the end, Nangongzhi deduced such a move. A strange swordsmanship that used murderous intent as the blade, overbearing as the bone, and light as the mind. Well, this is somewhat interesting. Chapter 112. It's a pity that although I have already set the foundation for this set of swordsmanship, I still need more time to perfect it. I don't know when I will be able to perfect such a swordsmanship. Nangongzhi once again practiced the swordsmanship he had just deduced in his mind, but as expected, he found many flaws. How difficult is it to create a swordsmanship? Not only does it require vision and accumulation, but it also requires more time to polish and perfect it. Among the countless seniors in the shinobi world, there are also people who are good at using swords. But how many swordsmanship routines have been passed down to this day? Although the prosperity of ninjutsu is also a factor that inhibits the development of swordsmanship, it is more because creating a perfect swordsmanship is a very difficult job. If it is for children to practice the basic swordsmanship, Nangongzhi can create a set of swordsmanship in an afternoon without deducing it. But if it is for his future life, Nangongzhi can't tolerate the slightest flaw that he can find. Deducing the swordsmanship is extremely exhausting, so he only practiced it twice in his mind. Nangongzhi felt a dull pain in his temple, and his head became a little dizzy, so he didn't continue to deduce it. He took out the green jade wine pot entrusted to him by the banishment and sat down in the corridor, looking at the flowers and trees in the garden, drinking alone. Time always passes by without giving people time to react. No one can stop the passing of summer and winter. 3 years have passed in a hurry. In the past 3 years, Nangongzhi has been deducing his swordsmanship. But in recent days, the progress is getting slower and slower. His experience and skills are not enough for Nangongzhi to find more flaws in his swordsmanship. But Nangongzhi still faintly feels that his swordsmanship is not perfect enough, and needs to continue to deduce. But Nangongzhi can no longer continue. Not to mention Nangongzhi, the acquaintances around him have also changed a lot. Mayubuki and Shina have also sent the 3-year-old Naruto and Sakura to Nangongzhi, hoping that Nangongzhi can guide these children in taijutsu. Although 3-year-old children can't receive any high-intensity training, they can't extract chakra without restraint. But they can still learn some basic taijutsu and practice hand seals. Even because the children of the ninja world generally develop faster, the children of this period can already use the advantage of young age to train their body's flexibility. As the substitute teacher of the ninja school's actual combat class, Nangongzhi's educational level is naturally not to be underestimated. Xiaoling's batch of students has successfully graduated this year, and it's time for the final exam, which is the Genin assessment. The class taught by Nangongzhi performed exceptionally well. Whether it's the actual combat results or the theoretical results, they are a lot better than the other classes. Shina and Mayubuki are naturally very relieved to let Nangongzhi train their children. In the afternoon, the door of Nangongzhi's house was knocked on by 2 children. "Uncle Nangong, we're here." The children's voices also came at the same time. Naturally, it was the 2 children, Naruto and Sakura. "Uncle Nangong, where did Sister Ling go?" The young Sakura and little Linger have a very good relationship, and little Linger is very happy because she has 2 children who are similar to her younger brother and sister. So she has always spoiled these 2 children, so when Sakura comes to Nangongzhi's house, she always subconsciously looks for little Linger. Little Linger? It seems that she followed their guidance to go out of the village to perform tasks, but it's just cleaning up the garbage or helping to plow the fields. I think she'll be back soon. Nangongzhi touched Sakura's head, and Sakura also threw herself into Nangongzhi's arms, with a look of enjoyment. Sakura has always had this kind of attachment to Nangongzhi, and sometimes she likes to act coquettishly to Nangongzhi. However, Sakura's parents have a lot of Nangongzhi. After all, she is their daughter. Being so close to Nangongzhi is still very jealous. "Uncle, what are we going to learn today?" Unlike Sakura, Naruto is very carefree to talk to Nangongzhi. Although Yandeme-sama has been investigating all kinds of things outside the village, there are still letters sent to Woodleaf from time to time. Naruto naturally knows that his father is Woodleaf's Yandeme-sama. But he doesn't seem to like his father very much. After all, Nangongzhi has been taking care of Shina and her son all these years, and Nangongzhi also helped with some physical work. During the holidays, Nangongzhi will also go to Shina house to visit. Although Naruto has never said it, in his heart, Nangongzhi is almost like a father. Shina can also see it, but she didn't stop it. A child without a father since childhood can let Nangongzhi make up for the lack of a father, which is good for Naruto. And the 3 generations want the relationship between Nangongzhi and Naruto to be closer. Naruto is Nine Tails' column force, and some ordinary villagers and ninjas may not know about it, but for the Woodleaf's higher-ups, it is not a secret at all. Who knows how many people have been secretly plotting against Naruto. With Nangongzhi, such a powerful existence in front of him, it also makes it difficult for more people in the dark to reach out. What does Naruto want to learn today? Nangongzhi smiled and looked at Naruto and asked. How old is Naruto? How can he have a plan for what he wants to learn? Biting his finger and thinking for a long time, he didn't come up with anything. But then he saw the disaster sword that Nangongja has been putting in the hall, and he secretly had a plan in his heart. Nangongja is an existence who relies on swordsmanship to move the wood leaf. Naruto has heard a lot of stories about Nangongja. So he secretly has a plan in his heart. Uncle, can I learn swordsmanship from you? Nangongja was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that Naruto, who is usually lively, would want to learn swordsmanship from him at this moment. Uncle Nangong, I want to learn swordsmanship too. Sakura in Nangongja's arms seemed to be tempted by Naruto at this moment. She also said eagerly in Nangongja's arms. Looking at the two children, Nangongja was also thinking in his heart. Although I'm learning internal strength, I can't let the two children learn from me. But swordsmanship can still be taught. Although I'm still very young, it's a good choice to find a successor, isn't it? So Nangongja immediately said, I've been training your hand seals and flexibility these days. I didn't think of teaching you swordsmanship, but since you want to try, it's not impossible. If you want to learn swordsmanship, you have to learn fist techniques first. Only when you know how to control your body's strength can you learn swordsmanship better. As the saying goes, a month with a staff, a year with a saber, a lifetime with a spear, and a treasure sword with you. If you want to learn swordsmanship well, there's still a long way to go. The two children were confused, but they felt that Nangongja's words were very reasonable, so they nodded. Nangongja also had a plan in his heart. Chapter 113. After Nangongja finished speaking, he looked at the confused Naruto and Sakura in front of him. For a moment, he felt that it was a little funny, so he shook his head and said, Why am I telling you this? You won't understand anyway. Watch carefully, I'll show you a set of fist techniques. Watch carefully and try to remember as much as you can. After that, we'll be practicing the fist techniques in the future. As Nangongja spoke, he carried Sakura, who was in his arms, and put her to the side. Then he walked to the middle of the courtyard. After calming himself down for a while, Nangongja began to move. The fist technique was very simple. It was nothing more than a set of footwork and some basic fist techniques. However, as Nangongja fought, he gradually added more strength. Some of his understanding of the sword also slowly merged into the fist technique. For a moment, regardless of whether it was the sand on the ground or the leaves on the trees, they were all swept up by Nangongja's fist wind. As Nangongja increased his strength, the dust and leaves slowly formed the image of a tiger. Every time Nangongja punched, it was accompanied by the roar of a tiger and the sound of thunder and lightning. It was the image of the tiger and leopard thunder that was formed when Nangongja's physical strength was exerted. Although it was full of sword intent that shrouded the fist technique, it didn't look like a sword. Instead, it looked like a sword embryo. Most of the body's strength was used on the muscles, bones, and it constantly improved the physical quality of the fist technique. In order to make the child more interested in the fist technique, Nangongja fought a little more flamboyantly. At the same time, he deliberately created the image of the tiger and leopard thunder. Even the current Nangongja began to sweat slightly after 3 rounds of fighting. This was the nature of the fist technique. The higher the strength, the stronger the physical quality, and the greater the pressure on the body. This was a boxing technique that Nangongja had developed over the past few years to train his body and maintain his stamina. It could also be considered as a subsidiary product of perfecting his swordsmanship, right? Amazing, amazing. Uncle Nangong played really well. When Sakura saw that Nangongja was done, she clapped and praised Nangongja. Children couldn't understand the essence of this fist technique, but Nangongja's vigorous movements just now were quite a performance. Although Naruto did not speak, his pair of beady eyes were fixed on Nangongja. Needless to say, this kid was eyeing Nangong's skills. You only know how to make uncle happy. Nangongja walked to Sakura's side, squatted down and rubbed Sakura's baby fat face. The little girl didn't feel anything, instead, she was still smiling, and even enjoyed Nangongja rubbing her face like this. She was like a kitten being stroked on the head, with a face full of satisfaction. I'll tell you this first. Although this set of fist technique has a certain attack power, it is very limited. Its greatest function is to temper the muscles and bones. If you really fight with someone and use this set of fist technique, you may suffer a few more hits. Nangongja said, and looked at Naruto's face standing next to him. This little guy is a devil incarnate. Although he doesn't bully other children because he is the child of Yondaime Hokage, he also pulled a large group of children to be the king of children. Wood leaf was often tossed by these children all day long. Not only Shina Kushina was often asked to talk to the patrolling ninjas, but sometimes even Nangongja was complained about by the ninjas. Now, he warned Naruto in advance, it can be regarded as a little less trouble in the future. As expected by Nangongja, Naruto, the little guy's face became a little uncomfortable when he heard that this set of fist technique can't be used in actual combat. But children are also simple-minded. Just now Nangongja's fist technique looked so powerful. Even if this set of fist technique can't be used, at least it can scare the opponent, right? Seeing that the two children had no other opinions, Nangongja patted Sakura and Naruto's small head. Then he said, "Okay, you two go to the yard and show me." The two children were also obedient, and soon went to the middle of the yard to practice. Sakura has always been very smart. After Nangongja practiced 3 times, although some details were not remembered, the general routine was very clear. From the beginning to the end, although he stumbled a bit, he still managed to finish a set of fist techniques that had a beginning and an end. And Naruto? How to say it? If you put it nicely, he is not very skilled, but if you put it bluntly, he is really a dog's fart. Basically, except for the beginning and ending of the fist technique taught by Nangongja, the middle is simply a mess. There is no sense of Nangongja's fist technique. Even Nangongja, the creator of this fist technique, felt that this set of fist technique is not his at all. Okay, Sakura and Naruto, you can stop for a while. Let me give you some pointers. When you are practicing, there are still some mistakes in your form and strength. Nangongja also walked to the middle of the yard, looked at Sakura and said, "Sakura is not bad. After all, you have only seen it 3 times, but you have already remembered the overall routine. In a while, I will slowly teach you some strength techniques and correct some of your movements." Okay. After Sakura heard Nangongja's evaluation, she was slightly happy. After all, her uncle Nangong praised her. At the same time, she glanced at Naruto, which made Naruto a little unhappy. He quickly ran to Nangongja's side and asked eagerly, "Uncle, what about me? What about me?" Chapter 114. The sun gradually shifted from the east to the middle, and unknowingly, it was already noon. The thin mist in the morning had long been dispersed by the rays of the sun. In the courtyard of Nangongja's house, Sakura was practicing the body-refining fist technique that Nangongja had taught her. As for Nangongja, he sat in the corridor and watched Sakura practice the fist technique. From time to time, he would give some pointers. Naruto sat beside Nangongja. Learning fist techniques required a certain impression in one's memory before one could practice. After a series of random punches, it would be better to just sit there and watch others practice. "Brother, I'm back." The door opened at the same time, and the two people who walked in were Nangong and Mashiro. In these few years, Mashiro had been quiet for a long time. He actually teamed up with Yachui to open a clothing store. Every day, he and Yachui would take turns to look after the store in the morning and afternoon. It could be considered as a form of entertainment for their daily life. Today was the day that Mashiro went to look after the store. It seemed that Nangong Ro had gone to look for Mashiro after returning from the hospital. Oh. You two little guys are here too. Coincidentally, sister bought a lot of fruits, vegetables, meat, and fish. Today, sister will show you her skills. Nangong Ro saw the few children and was very happy. She raised the stuffed bag in her hand and said. The happiness of children was so simple. One meal was enough, wasn't it? That's great. There's good food. Whether it was Sakura or Naruto, they stopped what they were doing and ran to Nangong Ro's side. They surrounded Nangong Ro and chattered about how they learned the fist technique from Nangong Zhe. Nangong Ro did not feel annoyed. Instead, she listened with great interest. When he found out that Naruto's learning wasn't going so smoothly, he even gently patted Naruto's head and urged Naruto to work harder in learning. Nangong Zhe looked at his younger sister. For a moment, he looked like an old man. He kept sighing that his younger sister had grown up and was already so good at taking care of people. Nangong Ro, on the other hand, was so embarrassed that her face turned red. She acted coquettishly in front of Nangong Zhe. Nangong Zhe was already 19 years old. Even though Nangong Ro was a few years younger than Nangong Zhe, she was already 16 years old. Woodleaf Village had quite a number of girls who had gotten married at this age, so it was natural for young girls to be shy when such a topic was brought up. Okay, you two don't need to practice the fist technique anymore. Go help Roar Jejia and Mashiro Jejia and cook together. Nangong Zhe walked to Naruto and Sakura's side. He patted the two children's heads and asked them to help cook. He watched the two children, Nangong Ro and Mashiro, cook together. Nangong Zhe suddenly felt that this kind of life couldn't be better. However, he inadvertently glanced at a shadowy location. He didn't do anything and just went into the room. Oh no! It seems that I have to quickly report to the Lord. This is already the 5th time this month that Nangong Zhe discovered my location. Although Nangong Zhe's temperament isn't bad, he didn't directly make a move on me. But how could a person called Yama be afraid of killing people? There was a slight movement in the shadows, but soon there was no sign of it. It was the same as what Nangong Zhe saw, but it still made him feel that something was missing. On a sparsely populated street near Nangong Zhe's house, a person wearing a hooded robe appeared. A white mask with floral patterns was placed on the face of this figure. After a while, the person wearing the mask walked to a large tree in a deserted practice field in Woodleaf Village. He took out a small scroll that was about the size of a thumb, bit his finger, and smeared his blood on the magic array in the scroll. A weak wave of energy was emitted from the scroll. The masked person pressed the scroll in his hand on the tree in front of him. The fluctuation of the scroll and the tree seemed to have some kind of resonance. A wave of ripples spread from the place where the scroll touched the tree, as if the space was distorted. After the masked person looked at his surroundings, he walked into the distorted space. At this moment, Nangong Zhe, who was eating, slightly changed his expression, but he quickly adjusted. He continued to chat with Nangong Ro and Mashiro one sentence at a time. Sir, you told me to report to you every time I was discovered by Nangong Zhe. Today, I was discovered again. In the gloomy cave, the masked and robed man was kneeling on the ground with one knee. He respectfully reported to the person in front of him. In front of the masked person, there was a seat made of black stone. A cold aura was emitted from the stone seat, proving that the stone seat was not ordinary. On the stone seat, there was a slightly blurry shadow sitting on it. Oh. It's fine if you're discovered. I originally sent you to let him discover you. Where's the other target? The shadow's voice was very strange, it was obvious that it had been altered. However, the indifference in the voice could not be hidden even if it was altered. The target is normal, there are daily reports. The masked person heard the shadow's question and immediately replied. With Nangong's ability, how could he not discover the target's little tricks? However, this target is really out of Danzo's expectations. He actually began to deliberately hide some information. Let's see if Danzo will go for wool and come home shorn. The shadow laughed and said with a hint of sarcasm. The Danzo that the shadow mentioned was the name of the leader of the wood leaf roots, Shimura Danzo. Then, sir, should I continue to keep an eye on these two targets? The masked person asked. No need, wood leaf roots are going to be unstable. Who knows, it might even affect Nangongzhe and the other target. If Nangongzhe is really desperate, who knows what he will do. With your ability, you're still a bit lacking. You can go back for now. If there's anything else, I'll give you orders directly. The shadow waved his hand, but his tone was somewhat impatient. However, the meaning behind his words was that he was taking pleasure in other people's misfortune and watching a show. The masked person was very tactful at this moment. He did not say anything and retreated. In the empty cave, only the shadow's words were left echoing. Wood leaf roots are going to do something stupid again. Nangongzhe, since you have the tribulation sword that I wanted to take from you, why don't you show me? Then show me what you've got to gain this sword's recognition. Chapter 115. In another place in the wood leaf, whether it was the 3 generations of Hokage, the elders of Kiba, or Shimura Danzo, who had been hiding in the dark, they all gathered together. Aside from Shimura Danzo, who was sitting calmly in his chair, looking at the 3rd Hokage and Konoha's elders with his one eye, Konoha's elder council. Whether it was the 3 generations of Hokage or the elders, they were all staring at the document in front of them. The document wasn't thick, only 5 or 6 pages. But this was the 3rd time that the 3 generations of Hokage and the elders of Kiba had read it at this moment. Everyone couldn't believe what was described in the document, or everyone didn't want the things in the document to be true. The 3 generations finally put down the document in their hands, and knocked the pipe in their hands on the table. After the pipe was lit, the 3 generations of Hokage didn't even take a puff. Now, there wasn't even a little bit of heat left in the pipe. This document. Danzo, are you sure it's true? The 3 generations of Hokage looked at Shimura Danzo, who was sitting opposite him, and his shadow covered most of Danzo's body. It made Danzo look even more gloomy. This was provided to me by my spy in Uchiha, and I have also sent all the members of Root to investigate the authenticity of this document. Unfortunately, if it wasn't for Root's fatal mistake, this document can almost be 100% verified. Although Root is directly under the command of Shimura Danzo, Root is still the department of the wood leaf. Some personnel transfers and resource allocation are still recorded in wood leaf. As long as they check carefully, they can naturally prove that Danzo is telling the truth. Collusion with foreign ninjas, hidden strategic resources, annexation of weak clans, we are very clear about these things, and if one of them is committed, it will be an absolutely unforgivable death sentence. Uchiha has not been stable since the establishment of wood leaf. They had even carved out a part of the land for themselves, not allowing any village to plant their power there. We're not the only ones who know this. The Uchiha is also very clear about this. 3 generations stood up from his seat and took out his tobacco pouch. He slowly added more tobacco into his already empty pipe as he spoke slowly. The group of Woodleaf elders and Danzo also secretly nodded. It was undeniable that Uchiha was an important force in Woodleaf. But this kind of power was a double-edged sword. If there was someone who could suppress Uchiha, then Uchiha would be Woodleaf's strongest weapon. In the past, the first Hokage Senju Hashirama and the second Hokage Senju Tobarama were both such geniuses. When the first Hokage and the second Hokage were still alive, Uchiha could only obey the orders of Woodleaf. But now Woodleaf is unstable, and the fourth Hokage went out of the village to investigate the mysterious organization. And my 3 disciples. Alas, they have all left this sad place. I'm already old, and I can no longer suppress Uchiha's ambition. He took out a box of matches, and the bright flame burned on the tip of the match. 3 generations put the match on the pipe and wanted to light the tobacco, but after several attempts, he couldn't light it. Finally, one of 3 generations' personal bodyguards quietly appeared and lit the pipe for 3 generations. The group looked at 3 generations' slightly bent body, and they were all speechless. Since 3 generations took office, his 2 masters, the first Hokage and the second Hokage, had been his goal. Whether it was fighting with other villages, or dealing with other things, they were extremely diligent. But now 3 generations is old, and some of the hidden wounds left when he was young have slowly emerged. His strength, which was once considered powerful among the Kage level, has slowly declined. But no one can underestimate 3 generations, because the real strength of 3 generations is his innumerable ninjutsu and grasp of the battle situation. If 3 generations really went all out to fight with any of the current Kage-level ninjas, 3 generations will be the one to survive in the end. Tiger Elder is still powerful, and Ryuo is still strong. Danzo, 3 generations suddenly called Danzo's name, which made Danzo raise his head and look at the 3 generations. Looking at Danzo's murderous eyes, 3 generations secretly sighed in his heart and said, Uchiha can't be moved, at least not for a while. Danzo was also a little surprised. After all, the file he handed in can be said to have pushed Uchiha to the edge of betrayal. Such a dangerous tumor that can erupt at any time, how can it be left in the wood leaf? Yuan Fei. Do you know what you are talking about? Even when we were young, the second Hokage always told us to use Uchiha if we can, and if we can't, we must eradicate it as soon as possible. Otherwise, it will be a disaster sooner or later. Now you actually want to forgive this group of traitors? What's wrong with you? You are old, so you have no guts to this point. Danzo said, and his tone gradually became sharper. He directly began to say that 3 generations is a coward. Some of the Umbu who were standing in the dark immediately stood in front of Sandame, and even pulled out their swords. A person who seemed to be the leader looked at Danzo and said, Danzo, show some respect to Hokage-sama. Some of Danzo's root ninjas also silently pulled out their swords and stood in front of the Umbu. Hokage? If I remember correctly, the current Woodleaf Hokage should be called Minato Watergate, right? As for Yuan Fei, isn't he just a member of the Elders of Kiba? Danzo didn't seem to intend to give 3 generations face, and directly said it bluntly. 3 generations Hokage was originally the result of the Elders of Kiba's discussion without Danzo, and Danzo has always been dissatisfied. But no one thought that Danzo would remove the last layer of cloth between them at this time. How dare you? The sound of swords being unsheathed sounded, whether it was the Umbu or the root ninjas. At this moment, they all pointed their swords at each other. As long as one person gave the order, they would kill each other. Enough. Haven't you made a fool of yourselves enough? Put away your swords for me. 3 generations shouted, and a burst of pressure came, making everyone feel a little depressed. But, the leader of the Umbu opened his mouth and said 2 words, but 3 generations stared at him. He could only slowly put away his ninja sword, and the Umbu of the Hokage also put away their ninja swords. Sandame's slightly cloudy eyes stared at Danzo, who was sitting behind many root ninjas with swords in their hands. Chapter 116. Seeing that the atmosphere between the 2 sides has eased slightly, Mito Monitis and Zhuan Xiaochun, as the leaders of the Elders of Kiba, also walked between the 2 sides. Mito Monitis was the first to speak. Danzo, tell your men to put away their swords. You're a grown-up, it's too undignified to pull out your swords. Is there anything that can't be discussed? The leader of the root ninja turned his head and looked at Shimura Danzo, who was sitting behind him, as if asking for Danzo's opinion. Danzo also nodded slightly, indicating his men to put away their swords. Seeing that Danzo has no intention to make a move, Zhuan Xiaochun also looked at the three generations and asked. Yuan Fei, Uchiha has indeed gone too far this time. And Danzo also paid a lot of money to prove this information, so it's natural that he's unwilling to be directly denied by you. Don't take it to heart. The three generations knew that Zhuan Xiaochun didn't want them to vent their anger on Danzo, otherwise, there will be internal chaos in the Hokage faction. Uchiha is still in the ascendant, it's too irrational to have a conflict with Danzo. So the three generations also nodded, indicating that they know what to do. But Yuan Fei, since you don't want us to touch Uchiha for the time being, you should give us an explanation. Whether it's the information we have now or the last words left by the second Hokage, it proves that Uchiha is after something big. It's really not good to let them go like this. Although Zhuan Xiaochun and Mito Monitis are on the side of the three generations, there are many things that you can't blindly support without any reason. The elders of Kiba were also an important part of Woodleaf's power. The three generations needed to give the elders of Kiba and Root a reasonable explanation. I believe, everyone still remembers the incident where Kyumo Shinobu village forcibly abducted the daughter of the Hyuga clan's patriarch not too long ago. Three generations suddenly mentioned a major event that happened in the Hyuga clan. At that time, Kyumo Shinobu actually sent a small team of ninjas to kidnap the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan. Fortunately, the leader of the Hyuga tribe had found out and risked his life to save his daughter. They did not let the Hyuga race's Kekkei Genkai Byakugan fall into the hands of the Kyumo Shinobu village. However, who would have thought that the Kyumo Shinobu village would actually cause trouble for them? They wanted Woodleaf to be responsible for the death of the Kyumo Shinobu village. In the end, the matter was resolved after a lot of twists and turns. However, it also made Woodleaf pay a lot of resources. They even made contact with the leader of the Hyuga clan's branch family, Hyuga Hizashi. Woodleaf had never suffered such a big loss ever since Woodleaf established the village. A lot of people were angry because of this matter. If it wasn't for the three generations forcibly suppressing this matter, who knows how big of a mess it would have caused. Since Woodleaf established the village, Woodleaf has never lost a war. Woodleaf has always been the one taking advantage. When did it become Woodleaf's turn to lose? However, the incident with Hyuga was indeed a huge loss for Konoha, but I still tried my best to suppress this matter. A lot of people said that I'm old and have lost my fighting spirit. I don't dare to fight with those who want to take advantage of Woodleaf. Three generations looked at Danzo, who was sitting in the shadows. Obviously, he was responding to Danzo's harsh words. Although I don't have many years left to live, as long as it's for Woodleaf. Even if I have to fight with the enemy now, I'm willing to give up my old life. When everyone heard the words of the Sandame, they secretly nodded their heads. As the first Hokage and the second Hokage's disciple, who has the deepest feelings for Konoha? Without a doubt, three generations was considered. This stubborn old man indeed had the courage and strength to fight for Woodleaf. But I can fight with my life. I can kill anyone who dares to invade Woodleaf. After that? Fourth generation is not in the village right now. My three disciples are also not in the village for various reasons. Now, there are only a few people who can protect Konoha. We can't afford to gamble. We can't gamble. Sandame took a deep puff from the tobacco pipe in his hand, giving the others some time to think about the cause and effect of the situation. After a while, three generations continued. Woodleaf's main strength is actually the Naruto clan, Uchiha, Hyuga, and many small and medium-sized clans. The Hyuga have quietly withdrawn part of their strength because of Kyumo Shinobu. It's not the Hyuga's fault. After all, as a member of Woodleaf, we didn't do our duty. It's normal for them to withdraw part of their strength to protect themselves. So now Woodleaf's main strength is only a few clans. Once we go to war with the Uchiha, let's not talk about whether we can completely destroy the Uchiha. How much of our strength will be consumed in the war? In the Third War, Woodleaf can be said to have a big advantage. The other 4 villages have suffered different degrees of losses. How can they not want to bite off a piece of meat from Woodleaf? We can destroy the Uchiha because of a moment of anger, but can we destroy Woodleaf's future because of a moment of anger? Finally, Sandem-sama revealed his reasons. Everyone present is Woodleaf's top management, none of them are fools who can be cajoled at will. Woodleaf is now compared to the overall level of the ninja world. There's an old saying, the tallest tree in the forest. None of the other forces will give up any opportunity to weaken Konoha's power. Once Woodleaf has internal strife, they will even cut off their own arm to destroy the Uchiha clan. How can the other ninja villages not have the idea of Woodleaf? Indeed, Yuan Fei's words are reasonable. We can deal with the Uchiha clan, but if we really go to fight the Uchiha head-on, we can't afford the losses caused. After a long silence, Mito Monitis, as the representative of the elders of Kiba, expressed his opinion. Then a group of Woodleaf elders followed. Yes, yes. Yuan Fei's words are reasonable. Indeed, the Uchiha can't make a move now. Danzo, you have to focus on the overall situation. A group of people began to talk like this. Danzo also looked at this group of Woodleaf elders with a dark face. Before this meeting began, Danzo had already bribed all the parties in advance. He roped in a lot of Woodleaf elders to support his proposal, and these people agreed one by one. But now they directly jumped to support the 3 Generations camp. It's a bit too shameless. Yuan Fei, it's good that you know in your heart, don't raise a tiger in the end. It will cause more losses. After saying that, Danzo waved the sleeve of his good hand. He walked away with an angry face. Chapter 117. Thump thump thump. In the empty and deep tunnel, a group of people was walking slowly. The leader was the Woodleaf root leader Shimura Danzo, who was struggling with the 3 Generations just now. And this is the secret passage leading to the Woodleaf root base. After walking for a long time, they finally saw the end of the dark passage. It was a huge underground space, and a road was circling the walls of the underground space. And every once in a while, a door would appear, and there was a nameplate on it to indicate where the door leads. Danzo didn't pay attention to the ninjas who occasionally passed by along the way and went straight to his office at the end of the road. Danzo put aside the crutch in his hand, and a follower very cleverly took off the white Haori coat on his body. Danzo sat in his seat, and the ninjas who followed behind Danzo also stood in front of Danzo's desk, waiting for Danzo's orders. This time, everyone did a good job. We were able to explore the secrets of the Uchiha, and at the same time, we were able to verify the authenticity of the information. Danzo looked at the people standing in front of him, and his usually tense face slightly relaxed, and there was even a trace of gratification on his face. The ninjas heard Danzo's praise and felt warm in their hearts. We didn't achieve Sama's goal, we are really ashamed. The leader of the ninjas suddenly knelt on the ground and apologized to Danzo. But Danzo shook his head. You are not wrong, I have too many enemies. Even if there is accurate information, there are still people who want to go against me. I don't blame you, you can go down to the reward and punishment office to receive your own rewards. Sama, not only the leader of the ninjas, but the rest of the ninjas also knelt on the ground at this moment. Obviously, they were a little emotional. Okay, we are all people who have experienced the ups and downs of life. It's a bit shameful to act like this. You can leave now. Don't take this setback to heart. Our route exists to protect the Woodleaf in the dark. As long as you complete our mission seriously, that will be enough. Dealing with the higher-ups is my business. Even if I fail, it's my fault. Danzo waved his hand and dismissed the root ninjas. It has to be said that Danzo can lead such a group of root ninjas. His charisma was unquestionable. Danzo, who took the initiative to take responsibility for his mistakes, was indeed worthy of Roots ninjas to do their best for him. When all the ninjas left Danzo's office, Danzo waved to a corner of his room. A ninja walked out from the shadows and half-knelt in front of Danzo. "Lord Danzo, what can I do for you?" Danzo touched his scarred chin, thought for a while and said, "How's the progress on Sky's side?" In the past 3 years, Nangongja has been occasionally going to the Woodleaf School to give lessons to the children there. After that, he will stay at home. But according to Sky's observation, Nangongja's strength seems to have increased again. I once sent a Hyuga ninja to investigate Nangongja. Whether it is the energy in his body or the vitality of his body, Nangongja is now standing on the edge of the Kage level. Hearing the report of his subordinate, Danzo couldn't help but chuckle twice. I didn't expect that the chess pieces that I arranged occasionally in the past really played a role. Since Sky is here, Nangongja will be our hidden strength. When the time is right, he can become a sharp sword that can cut through the thorns for us. After Danzo finished speaking, the bodyguard who came out from the shadows didn't dare to speak casually. Danzo's office returned to silence again, only the sound of Danzo tapping his fingertips from time to time could be heard. "You go and inform Itachi Uchiha to report to me after this mission is over. I have something to say to him." After a long silence, Danzo said to his bodyguard, "Yes." After the bodyguard responded, he once again walked back to the shadows where he came out from. Only a few slight mechanical sounds proved that the bodyguard has left. "Yuan Fei, oh Yuan Fei, you are really old. If you were young, whether it was the Uchiha's movement or the Hyuga's dissatisfaction, how could you care about it? Look at you now, you are so timid, let me help you make a decision. If you can't make up your mind, then you should retire from the position of Hokage." In the empty office, only Danzo was left, silently talking to himself. Danzo's low and firm voice echoed in the office. In Nangongja's house, in Mashiro's room. Mashiro was holding a pen and writing something in a small book in front of him. Sigh. After stopping writing, Mashiro threw the pen in his hand to the side. He also let out a soft sigh, a little sad and helpless. What's more strange is that the words in front of Mashiro's book that were clearly visible just now quietly disappeared. Only a blank page was left, under the light, reflecting a pale yellow light. "Mashiro, eat." Mashiro's door was suddenly knocked, followed by Nangongja's voice calling Mashiro to eat. Mashiro looked at the book in front of him, reached out to close it and put it in a box, then turned around and replied, "I'm coming." Nangongja went to the living room. Nangong-ro and Little Linger, who just finished a mission, were all sitting at the dining table. But the food was not touched at all, obviously they were waiting for Mashiro to arrive to eat together. Okay, what are you waiting for me for? Let's just eat." Mashiro glanced at Nangongja. Naturally he knew that Nangongja invited him to eat together, so he rolled his eyes at Nangongja. Nangongja noticed Mashiro rolling his eyes at him, so he awkwardly scratched the back of his head. Then he hurriedly changed the topic, looked at Little Linger and said, "Little Linger, did the mission go smoothly this time?" Little Linger looked at Nangongja, then looked at Mashiro and couldn't help but laugh. "Brother Nangong, your ability to change the topic is really bad. I'm in the same team as Uchiha Yuri Koyuri, who is the top student in our class. It's just a simple mission like clearing a river. Yuri Koyuri and I can already walk on water, so naturally it wasn't difficult." After being criticized by Little Linger, Nangongja felt even more embarrassed. He could only smile embarrassedly. Okay, I knew our Little Linger is the best." Then he reached out his hand and slowly stroked Little Linger's head. Little Linger turned her head away in disdain, but her eyes revealed unconcealable happiness. Chapter 118. Itachi Uchiha was very puzzled. He was obviously an Umbu subordinate of Hokage, but when he finished the task of leaving the village and handed over some procedures, suddenly a Root Umbu came to him and said that the leader of Root, Shimura Danzo, wanted to see him. Itachi Uchiha really couldn't figure out the reason. But Danzo is also one of the most respected leaders of Woodleaf. As a ninja subordinate of Woodleaf, Itachi felt that he should go and see Danzo. So Itachi Uchiha also took a piece of black cloth, and under the leadership of the Root Ninja, he went to the underground base of Root. After Itachi's blindfold was removed, he slightly adapted to it. Itachi saw a figure sitting opposite him. Half of his face was covered with bandages, and one of his hands was also wrapped in bandages hanging around his neck. Itachi recognized this person at a glance. He is the leader of Woodleaf Root, Shimura Danzo. As a ninja from a big family, Itachi is naturally very polite. Half kneeling on the ground, he slightly lowered his head and said to Danzo sitting opposite him. I don't know why Danzo-sama summoned me, a ninja of Hokage's Umbu. Although his attitude was respectful, and his tone was soft. But these words were a bit sarcastic. In particular, the words, Umbu under Hokage's direct command, were heavily emphasized. Why are you looking for you? Don't you know what your own family has done? When Danzo heard Itachi's words, he coldly snorted, and a powerful momentum instantly suppressed Itachi's body. In the momentum, there was a strong murderous aura that can't be ignored, which directly put Itachi under great pressure. Family? I don't know what my Uchiha family has done. Although under great pressure, Itachi gritted his teeth and said such a sentence from his mouth. As a member of the Uchiha clan, Itachi valued his identity as an Uchiha very much. Someone insulted the Uchiha family in front of him. Even if that person was the leader of the Woodleaf Roots, Shimura Danzo, Itachi would not give in so easily. You are the eldest son of the Uchiha clan's patriarch, Uchiha Fugaku. Don't you know what your family has done? Danzo said as he grabbed a document from his desk and threw it in front of Itachi Uchiha. At the same time, Itachi Uchiha withdrew his aura a little so that he could move his body a little and read the documents in front of him. Itachi Uchiha glared fiercely at Shimura Danzo in front of him, but only received a cold snort from Danzo. He picked up the documents in front of him and flipped through a few pages with slight anger. But after flipping through them, Itachi Uchiha's eyes widened as if they were about to open. He could only close the documents in his hand and carefully read from the first page. Danzo-sama, this kind of document. Do you want my Uchiha clan to end our lives in the Woodleaf Roots? Itachi Uchiha said as he released his aura. It was as if he wanted to compete with Danzo. Whether the things in these documents are true or false, you will know when you go home. Why are you worried that I am lying to you? Just go home. If this document says that your Uchiha clan has colluded with foreign enemies and attempted to rebel, you can come and find me. It's not impossible for you to take my head. Danzo looked at Itachi who was half kneeling in front of him. He actually said that if Itachi found out that he was suspicious, he could take his head. This made Itachi a little shocked. Could it be that his family really did such a thing? Itachi couldn't help but ask himself in his heart. In the end, he realized that his father, Uchiha Fugaku, would sometimes do some strange things. After he found out and asked, Uchiha Fugaku didn't say anything and just casually found a reason to send him away. Since that is the case, I will take my leave. Danzo-sama. Itachi Uchiha stood up and bowed slightly to Danzo. Danzo waved his hand and ordered his subordinates to put a mask on Itachi Uchiha's face. Then, he led him out of Root's base. Ha ha ha, this nail has been planted. The document I gave you is not fake at all. Yuan Fei always told me how loyal Itachi Uchiha is to Woodleaf. Then let me see how trustworthy he is. Danzo wasn't afraid that Itachi Uchiha would bring this document back home and report to Woodleaf about the Uchiha clan's rebellion. This was because the things mentioned in this document were just some random things that were purposely speculated about the Uchiha clan's rebellion. However, after Itachi Uchiha saw this document, Itachi Uchiha obviously wouldn't just investigate these random things. These things were hidden in the shadows. As a member of the Black Ops, Itachi Uchiha naturally had the ability to follow this trail to find the truth. Moreover, with the Uchiha clan's temperament, even if they were suspicious of Woodleaf because of this document, they wouldn't do anything. In Danzo's opinion, among the current high-ranking members of the Uchiha clan, other than Uchiha Fugaku who was a bit scheming, the rest? A bunch of idiots whose muscles had grown into their brains. Compared to a sly old fox like Danzo, the difference was huge. Give this Uchiha boy some time, let him carefully investigate his own family, and let him do a thorough investigation of his own family. Let this naive little brat see clearly what kind of people his family is. Danzo looked at Itachi's figure that was gradually fading away and said slowly. After leaving Root's base, Itachi once again lifted his blindfold and stood in a slightly remote corner of Woodleaf. Looking around slightly, Itachi identified the direction and walked towards his own home. In just a moment, Itachi Uchiha arrived at the Uchiha clan's territory in Woodleaf. Several Uchiha clan ninjas in charge of patrolling also saw Itachi Uchiha's figure at this moment. They stepped forward and saluted. "Hello Master Itachi, you've worked hard on the mission." If it was in the past, the gentle Itachi might have exchanged greetings with these clan members. But now, Itachi's mood was uneasy. He directly walked past these patrolling Uchiha clansmen. Looking at Itachi Uchiha's back, several Uchiha clansmen also began to discuss. "What's wrong with Master Itachi? We already greeted him, why is he acting like this?" Okay, Master Itachi is famous for his gentle temperament. Maybe he has an urgent matter to see the clan leader? Why are you sulking here? That's right, Master Itachi has always been good to us. Maybe there really is an urgent matter this time. The few of them chatted casually and finally came to a consensus. They continued to patrol the clan's territory. After all, this is a serious matter. Chapter 119. Itachi strode to the courtyard of his home and met many clansmen along the way. After these people greeted Itachi, Itachi still did not respond to any of them, which made them very puzzled. Just as Itachi was about to walk to his home, a childish voice sounded from behind. "Brother Itachi, you're back? You've been gone for a long time, Sasuke missed you so much." Itachi finally stopped and turned around to look at the child who was talking to him and hitting me. Black hair, a pair of black pupils, and a face somewhat similar to Itachi. The person who just spoke was Itachi's younger brother, the second son of the Uchiha clan's head Uchiha Fugaku, and the second young master of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Sasuke. When Itachi turned around, Sasuke threw himself into Itachi's arms. He hugged him tightly and said, "Brother Itachi, you lied, you said that this mission was very simple. You can come back in half a month, but now it's been 2 months since you came back from outside." Looking at his younger brother, Uchiha Itachi's anger and resentment disappeared in an instant. He lowered his voice and squatted down so that his eyes were on the same level as Uchiha Sasuke's, and said, "Uchiha Sasuke, it's brother's fault, the mission is a little troublesome. It was delayed for a few days, but after this mission last night, I can rest for a long time. Brother will train with Sasuke, okay?" Sasuke heard his brother's words, but he didn't pay attention to the training part behind, but asked anxiously, "Brother, your mission is very troublesome, do you have it? If you're injured, we have to go home and find Mom. Mom is amazing, she cured my knee last time." Listening to his brother's concern for him, Itachi Uchiha's heart was also warm. He touched his brother's head and said, "It's okay, brother is very powerful. How come you have it?" In fact, Itachi was indeed injured in this mission, and the injury was not light. Now, he relied on this Sharingan to gain the strength of a special Jonin. This time, Itachi went to assassinate a person who was protected by a Jonin team. Although he finally completed the mission successfully, he also paid a big price. It was also because of the injury that affected the journey. He rested outside the village for nearly a month before returning to the ninja village. But how could Itachi say that he was injured to his brother, which made Sasuke more worried? That's right. I know that brother is the best, the mission can be completed easily. Little Sasuke nodded vigorously, as if he was trying to increase the credibility of his words. Itachi looked at his little brother and carried him on his back. Let's go, brother hasn't carried you for a long time. This time, I'll carry you home. Hearing Itachi's words, Sasuke also leaned over Itachi's back with a satisfied look. Looking at Sasuke's smiling face, Itachi's heart sank. Although the information Danzo showed him didn't have conclusive evidence to prove that Uchiha clan colluded with foreign enemies in an attempt to subvert Woodleaf's rule. But Itachi was also a person who had seen the wind and waves, although these clues weren't obvious. But combined together, it can still be seen that Uchiha clan's plan was not small, which has threatened Woodleaf's rule. As a member of the Umbu, Itachi naturally knew that Woodleaf has the power that Uchiha clan can't stop. As long as Woodleaf is willing to pay the price, it's not impossible to destroy Uchiha clan, who now has no peak power like Hokage. Father, how can you be so greedy? How long after the war, you want to plot the entire foundation of Woodleaf? Sasuke, who was born after the war, Itachi really didn't want them to go through such a cruel baptism of blood and fire. I will protect you well. Itachi's mouth whispered softly, his voice was so low that even Sasuke, who was lying on his sad side, didn't hear it. But the promise was very serious. For this promise, Itachi can do anything, as long as he can protect his brother. Even if Itachi had already walked to his house, even if he was carrying his brother, Itachi still quickly arrived at the door of his house. After gently knocking on the door, Itachi opened the door. Uchiha Mikoto also heard the sound of her door being opened the door and saw her two sons at the door. She didn't know when Sasuke fell asleep on Itachi's back. He made a slight snoring sound, and his nose twitched from time to time. Mother, I'm back. Itachi respectfully said to his mother, and at the same time, gently put down the sleeping Sasuke on his back. Uchiha Mikoto picked up Sasuke and walked inside the house. Can't you be so polite to me? Can't you learn from your brother, and act like a spoiled child in front of your mother? Looking at her eldest son who has always been very calm, Uchiha Mikoto couldn't help but say. It's right to respect for mother. Itachi still said with a serious face. Oh, my child is really not cute. Mikoto pouted her mouth and whispered slightly. With Itachi's hearing, he could naturally hear what his mother said. But after a slight smile, he didn't pay attention to it. Walking to the living room of his house, Uchiha Fugaku was also sitting on the tatami, reading a newspaper. After seeing Itachi come back, he also said, "Oh. Itachi is back. How was the mission? Did it go smoothly?" Hearing his father's question, Itachi immediately replied, "Thank you for your concern, father. Although there were some troubles, they were solved. The mission was completed smoothly." Good, that's good. As a member of the Uchiha clan, no matter what kind of difficulties, we must face them bravely. You did a good job. Uchiha Fugaku stood up, walked to Itachi's side, and reached out his hand to pat his son's shoulder. Then he went to his wife, Uchiha Mikoto, looked at the sleeping Sasuke and said, "Go get the family's best medicine, and send it to Itachi later." Hearing her husband's words, Mikoto didn't care about sending Sasuke back to his room. She looked at her son anxiously and asked, "Itachi, you're injured? Is it serious? Did you take care of it? Go to your room and wait, mom will treat you after putting Sasuke down." Mikoto's relationship with Shina Kushina is not bad, and she also has some foundation in medical ninjutsu. So she can still treat injuries. Hearing that Itachi was injured, she was eager to treat her child. Just a moment ago, she said that her child wasn't cute enough, but now she cared more about her child than anyone else. At this moment, the sentimental mother's eyes were covered with a thin layer of mist. Itachi's heart was touched, and at the same time, he took a deep look at Uchiha Fugaku, who was standing next to his mother. Chapter 120. Uchiha Mikoto put Sasuke in the room, covered him with a quilt, and walked to Itachi's door. Uchiha Mikoto reached out and gently knocked on her son's door. "Itachi, mommy will come in and check your wounds." But after waiting for a long time, there was still no response. She hurriedly pushed open Uchiha's door and saw Itachi lying on the ground. "Itachi, are you okay?" This scared Mikoto, and she immediately ran to her son's side. One of her hands was covered with a glowing green chakra ball, and gently covered Itachi's body. The gentle nature of the medical chakra slowly penetrated Itachi's body, and Uchiha Mikoto could clearly see her son's physical condition. Internal examination: there are minor injuries, but he has almost recovered, and will be fine after a few days of rest. Meridian examination: there are signs of swelling, which may be due to a large amount of chakra passing through the meridians. It's not serious, but he needs to rest for a period of time to adjust. Spiritual power examination: the spiritual power activity is low, which may be caused by a large amount of genjutsu or excessive use of genjutsu. The specific situation needs to be further examined by professionals. Uchiha Mikoto's mouth faintly murmured Itachi Uchiha's physical condition, and her eyes were very serious and slightly anxious. After checking Itachi's internal organs, meridians, and spiritual power, she found that there were some minor problems, and there was no possibility of causing a ninja of Itachi's level to faint. So Mikoto closed her eyes, and after silently saying, "Open," in her heart, her originally dark eyes now turned into a somewhat dark red, and the three tomos slowly rotated in her irises. As the wife of the head of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Mikoto was not only a beautiful vase with a cute face, on the contrary, Uchiha Mikoto was also a genius when she was young. It was also because of Uchiha Mikoto and Uchiha Fugaku's talent that a genius with infinite potential like Itachi was born. Even little Sasuke, although only 3 years old, his physical fitness, meridian's width, flexibility, and toughness are far beyond his peers. The Magatama in Mikoto's eyes spun faster and faster, leaving behind afterimages that almost formed a circle in her eyes. Mikoto felt the changes in chakra in her body. Her right hand turned into a sword and pressed against Itachi's forehead. Streams of eye power flowed into Itachi's body. After a short while, Mikoto removed her finger from Itachi's forehead. Looking at Mikoto's appearance, drops of sweat were dripping down her face. The pair of Sharingan that was originally bright red in color has been forced to converge at this moment. Mikoto's expression couldn't help but become tired, and her face paled. Ugh! Itachi Uchiha, who had fallen to the ground, finally regained consciousness. He looked at his mother in front of him and couldn't help but ask, "Mother, what happened to you? Why do you look so bad?" Looking at her eldest son, Mikoto put her hand on Itachi's head and gently stroked it. "Mother is fine, it's just that I consumed a lot of energy just now. When I came to find you, you had already fallen to the ground. After I checked you, I found that your eye power is seriously lacking. It should be because you overdrew the power of your Sharingan when you were fighting someone, so I used a secret technique to separate a part of my eye power for you so that you can wake up as soon as possible." Listening to his mother's words, Itachi's heart suddenly felt very uncomfortable. In order to save him, his mother actually used such a dangerous secret technique. As a member of the Uchiha clan, Itachi Uchiha naturally knew how dangerous this kind of eye power transmission is. If one is not careful, if one is lucky, the Sharingan will degenerate; if one is unlucky, one will directly lose both eyes. How can he let his mother do such a thing? "Mother, you don't have to use such a dangerous method to save me. As long as you properly recuperate, there will always be a way to make up for the loss of eye power. But if something happens to you, it won't be able to make up for it, right? Mikoto looked at Itachi, who was looking at her with a worried expression, and smiled. Although her face was a bit pale, but a unique feminine radiance of motherhood slowly emitted from her, I know that the loss of eye power can be slowly made up for. But when I look at the pain my child is going through, I see that my child is frowning. As a mother, even if I know that I am doing something pointless and dangerous, I must do it. Mikoto reached out her hand and stroked her child's hair. My little Itachi has been very obedient since he was a child, very sensible. Many people have told mother that my little Itachi's talent is far beyond ordinary people, and that he will be the pride of the Uchiha in the future. But mother doesn't want my little Itachi to become so powerful. I have even prayed countless times to the heavens to let my child become an ordinary person, because if my child becomes powerful, he will be forced to become a sharp knife for the Uchiha. Rather than that, it is better to be mediocre. But the heavens still didn't listen to my pleas. My little Itachi is indeed a rare genius. Just like that, he graduated early, became a genin, rushed to the battlefield, promoted to a chunin, and finally joined the Umbu. You have indeed made the Uchiha proud, but in contrast, you have deep and shallow scars on your body, and your soul is filled with cracks. Since childhood, my little Itachi has been a kind person. Whenever he sees an injured animal, he will beg me to bandage it. Whenever he sees someone in trouble, he will do his best to help them. Just like now, he is being forced to take another person's life. My little Itachi's heart is filled with helplessness. Mother knows very well. Mother really doesn't want my son to struggle in this kind of torment. Mikoto said. Tears flowed out from her eyes. She hugged her child in her arms and said these words with some emotion. Mama, Ma. Itachi was just about to call Mikoto Mao-sama, but halfway through, he changed it to mother, which he rarely called out. Mother is here. Hearing Itachi's voice, Mikoto also responded. Mother, no matter what will happen to me, I will protect my mother and brother. If anyone wants to hurt you, I will not let them go. Even if it is my father. Itachi silently added such a sentence in his heart, but no one knew. But this kind of resolution is also engraved in the depths of Itachi's heart. Letting go of her hands, Mikoto wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. She said with a smile, all right, crying like this in front of your own child. Mother will go out first. I have already checked your injuries. It is not a big problem, you will be fine after a good rest. After saying that, Mikoto walked out of Itachi's room. Weasel was left alone in his room, deep in thought. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.